Michael Carter walked into the little piano studio on Oak Street, set a folded check on the closed lid of the piano, and smiled at the woman who had once agreed to marry him. $20,000, he said. Cancel every lesson, lock the door, be gone by Friday. Claire Bennett didn't touch the check. In the corner chair, a 9-year-old girl named Lily Walker sat very still, with her hands folded in her lap, and Michael turned, looked right at that child and said, "Sweetheart, go tell your father the piano is finished." If a story about a broken promise, a buried letter, and a love that waited 20 years is the kind of story you like, please subscribe to the channel and stay with me all the way to the end, because the truth in this one does not arrive when you expect it. And leave a comment telling me what city you are watching from, so I can see how far this story has traveled. Now let me take you back to where it started. It started with a piece of paper. Lily Walker came through the front door on a Thursday in September, with her backpack hanging off one shoulder and a flyer held against her chest like it was made of glass. Nathan was at the kitchen sink, still smelling faintly of smoke from a garage fire on Anderson Road, scrubbing at a pan that had already been cleaned for 5 minutes. "Dad? Hey, Bug." "Dad, look." "I'm looking." "You're not looking, you're doing dishes." Nathan shut off the water. He dried his hands slowly the way a man dries his hands when some part of him already knows he isn't going to like what he turns around and sees. She held out the flyer. Piano lessons. Beginner's welcome. Oak Street. Nathan looked at it for about 2 seconds, and something in his chest dropped straight through the floor of him. "Piano," he said. "Piano. There's a soccer sign-up sheet at the rec center. They've got a spring league. You'd be good at soccer, you're fast." "I don't want soccer. They do art on Saturdays at the library. Free. Dad, there's a dance thing Mrs. Ray's granddaughter does it. They wear the little—" "Dad!" Lily didn't raise her voice. That was the worst part. She just said it quietly, the way her mother used to say his name when he was being ridiculous, and they both knew it. "Why don't you want me to play piano?" And Nathan Walker, who had walked into a burning duplex 11 days earlier and carried a 200-pound man down a staircase that was already softening under his boots, could not think of one single thing to say to a 9-year-old girl in a kitchen. "I never said that. You said soccer, and art, and dance. You said 3 things that aren't piano. I'm just giving you options. You didn't give me options for soccer. You just said no when I asked for a trampoline. That's because trampolines are how people meet me professionally." She almost laughed. She caught it. She was too smart to let him get away with it that easy. "Miss Dawson said I have good hands for it," Lily said. "She said I picked out the melody on the school piano without anybody showing me. She said that means something." Nathan set the towel down on the counter. "Yeah," he said. "It means something." "So let me think about it." "That's a no." "That's a think about it." "Dad, when you say think about it, it means no. When Mom said think about it, it meant yes, but not until Thursday." And there it was. Emily arriving in the kitchen the way she always did, uninvited, through a crack in an ordinary sentence. Nathan put both hands on the counter and looked down at them. "Go do your homework," he said. "Dad, homework Lil." She went. She didn't slam anything. She never slammed anything, and honestly he wished she would, because a kid who slams doors is a kid who still believes somebody will come after her. Lily just walked down the hall and closed her door with a soft click, and that soft click was worse than any slam he'd ever heard. Nathan stood in the kitchen for a long time. Then he went to the closet in his bedroom, the one he hadn't opened all the way in 3 years, and he sat down on the floor in front of it. There was a box in there. Blue lid. Emily's handwriting on the side in marker faded. "Now music do not lose." He didn't open it. He just put his hand flat on the lid, the way you'd put your hand on somebody's forehead to check for fever. And he heard her voice clear as a bell from a hospital room with too much light in it. "Promise me you'll let her find something that makes her heart sing." He had said yes. He had held her hand and said, "Yes, of course I promise." And he had meant it more than he had ever meant anything in his entire life. And then he had gone home and kept every promise except that one. Because every note of music in the world sounded like a door closing. He sat there until his legs went numb. Then he got up, walked down the hall, and knocked on his daughter's door. "Hey." She was on her bed, math book open, not looking at it. "Get your shoes," Nathan said. Why? Because I'm calling the number on your flyer, and I'd rather do it with you in the room so you can hear me, not chicken out. Lily's whole face changed. That was the thing about Lily. She kept her joy in a jar with the lid on tight, but when it got out, it filled the entire room. Really? Don't make it weird. You're gonna cry? I'm absolutely not going to cry. You cried at the dog food commercial. That commercial was manipulative, and you know it. He dialed with his thumb while she sat there vibrating like a struck string. It rang 3 times, and a woman's voice answered. Bennett Piano Studio. 4 words. That's all it was. 4 ordinary words. And Nathan Walker forgot how to breathe, because something in the back of his skull, some old animal that had been asleep for 20 years, sat straight up. Hello, the voice said. Is anyone there? Yeah, Nathan said. Sorry, yeah. My daughter wants lessons. Wonderful. How old is she? 9. 9 is a beautiful age to start. Has she played before? She picks stuff out on the school piano. By ear, I guess. There was a pause on the line. Just a small one. By ear? The woman repeated. Those are my favorite students. They're the hardest and the best. Yeah, Nathan said. Her mother was like that. He didn't know why he said it. He never said it. He hadn't said it out loud to a stranger one time in 3 years, and here he was, handing it to a voice on a telephone. The pause on the other end was longer this time. Tuesday at 4, she said gently. 19 Oak Street. There's a blue door. Tuesday at 4. What's her name? Lily. And yours? And Nathan opened his mouth and something stopped him. Some instinct, some hand on his chest, and he said, I'll see you Tuesday, and hung up. Lily stared at him. You didn't tell her your name. She doesn't need my name. She needs your name. You're the one playing. That was so rude. I was efficient. Dad, you hung up on her. I completed the call. Lily narrowed her eyes at him, and Nathan turned around and walked out of that room fast because his hands were shaking, and he did not want his 9-year-old daughter to see it. Tuesday came slow. It came the way bad days come, 1 minute at a time, each one taking its sweet time about it. He worked a shift Monday night, 16 hours, and he was tired in the way that should have made a man not think, and he thought the entire time anyway. Bennett. There were 1,000 Bennetts. 10,000. It was a name you saw on mailboxes and church bulletins and the side of plumbing trucks. It didn't mean anything. He told himself that in the truck. He told himself that at a red light on Franklin Pike with Lily in the passenger seat, holding a spiral notebook she'd decorated with stickers, because she thought piano lessons required a notebook, and nobody had the heart to tell her otherwise. Dad, your hands are white. What? On the steering wheel, your knuckles. He let go a little. I'm fine. You're nervous. I'm not nervous. You're nervous, and I'm the one taking the lesson. She looked out the window. That's kind of embarrassing for you. You're 9. You're not allowed to say things like that until you're at least 12. Mom said I was 9 going on 40. Your mother, Nathan said, was a very accurate woman. They parked on Oak Street. The blue door was exactly where the woman said it would be, and Nathan sat in the truck with the engine off, and he could not make his hand open the door. Dad? Yeah. It's 4 o'clock. I know. It's 4 o'clock and 1 minute. I heard you. Lily looked at him, and then, because she was Emily's daughter all the way down to the bone, she reached over and put her small hand on top of his big scarred one. You don't have to come in, she said. I can go by myself. I'm not scared. And that broke him. That absolutely broke him right there in a parked truck on a residential street in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon. No, Nathan said, and his voice came out rough. No, I'm coming in. I'm coming in with you. They walked up together. He knocked. He heard footsteps on hardwood. The door opened, and the world stopped turning on its axis. She was older. Of course she was older. He was older. Everybody who lives gets older. There was silver at her temple that she hadn't bothered to hide. There were lines at the corners of her mouth that only come from smiling and from not smiling, both over a long time. But the eyes were exactly, precisely, cruelly the same. Claire, Nathan said. It came out of him like something being pulled, and Claire Bennett stood in that doorway with her hands still on the knob, and every drop of color left her face. Nathan, she said. Neither of them moved. Lily looked up at her father, then at the woman, then back at her father. "Do you guys know each other?" Nobody answered her. "Dad." Nothing. "Dad, you're doing the thing where you don't blink." Claire recovered first. Women always recover first, Nathan thought in some strange floating corner of his mind. 20 years and they still recover first. "You must be Lily," Claire said, and she crouched down, and her voice was steady, even though her hand on the doorframe was not. "I'm Miss Claire. I'm so glad you came." "I brought a notebook," Lily said, holding it up. "I don't know if you need a notebook." "You absolutely need a notebook," Claire said. "You're already ahead of everyone." Lily beamed. Lily walked right past her into the studio like she'd been going there her whole life. And then it was just the two of them in a doorway. 20 years standing in a doorway. "You didn't tell me your name," Claire said quietly. "No." "On the phone, you wouldn't tell me your name." "No." "Why?" Nathan looked at her. His jaw worked. "Because some part of me knew," he said. Claire's eyes filled fast all at once, and she blinked it back so hard it looked like it hurt. "Nathan, don't. I need to... Don't." He shook his head once. "She's 9. She's waiting on you. That's what today is. That's all today is." Claire stood there. Then she stepped back and held the door open. He walked in. He sat in the chair in the corner, the one for parents, and he watched the girl he loved at 18 teach his dead wife's daughter where middle C was, and he thought with total clarity that God had a sense of humor that was frankly hard to forgive. The lesson lasted 30 minutes. It was the longest 30 minutes of his adult life. "So this one," Claire was saying, "is C. And here's the trick nobody tells you. You don't find it by counting, you find it by feeling. See these 2 black keys right there, like a little gate C, is always standing just to the left of the gate. Always. Every piano in the world. So if you ever get lost, you look for the gate. What if I still get lost? Then you're allowed to get lost. Getting lost is part of it." "My dad hates getting lost." Claire didn't look up. "Does he?" "He turns the radio off when he gets lost, like the radio's the problem." "Lily," Nathan said, "it's true." Claire's mouth twitched. She still didn't look at him. "Try it again," she said. "Both hands this time. Don't rush. The piano's not going anywhere." And Lily played 4 notes. 4 wobbly, ugly, wrong-timed notes. And Nathan Walker had to put his hand over his mouth and press hard, because there was a sound trying to come out of him that he had not let out in 3 years, and it had picked a hell of a time to try. Claire heard it. She had to have heard it. She kept her eyes on the keys, and she said very gently to Lily, "That was good. Do it again." At the end, Lily hugged her. Just walked up and hugged her arms around her waist, like it was nothing like it was normal. Claire looked over the top of that child's head straight at Nathan, and the two of them had an entire conversation without saying one word. Then Lily let go and said, "Same time next week. Same time next week," Claire said. They walked out to the truck. Lily got in. Nathan didn't. He stood with his hand on the door, and then he turned around and went back up the walk, and Claire was still standing in the doorway like she knew he would. "How long have you been in Nashville?" he asked. 2 years. 2 years. 2 years of the same grocery stores, the same interstate, the same sky. 2 years, he repeated. "Nathan, you've been 11 miles from my house for 2 years. I didn't know where you... I'm in the phone book, Claire. I'm a public employee. Station 19. My picture's on a wall in a building with my name under it." Her face crumpled and reassembled all in about half a second. "You think I didn't know that?" she said so quietly he almost missed it. That landed in his chest like a fist. "What?" I said acidly, and she looked up at him. "You think I didn't know that?" Nathan stared at her. "Then why?" "Dad." Lily leaned out the truck window. "The ice cream place closes at 5:30. Claire smiled at his daughter over his shoulder. It was a real smile. That was what killed him. "Go," Claire said. "She's waiting." "This isn't finished." "I know," Claire said. "It hasn't been finished for 20 years." And she closed the blue door. He drove to the ice cream place. He bought his daughter a mint chocolate chip and a waffle cone, and he watched her eat it, and he answered her questions with the wrong answers because he wasn't in the car at all. He was 18 years old, outside a high school music room in Kentucky, waiting on a girl who never came. Dad. You knew her. A long time ago. How long? Before you were born. Before I met your mom. Lily thought about that. She thought about it the way she thought about everything, seriously chewing on it along with her ice cream. Was she nice? Nathan looked out the windshield. She was the nicest person I ever met, he said, until she wasn't there anymore. Where'd she go? I don't know, Bug. You never asked. There wasn't anybody left to ask. Lily was quiet a minute. That's the saddest thing you ever said, she told him, and you say a lot of sad things. He laughed. He actually laughed, and it surprised both of them. That night he couldn't sleep, so at 2 a.m, he did the stupidest thing he'd done in a decade. He got out of bed, went to the closet, and opened the box. Sheet music. Emily's handwriting all over it. Corrections in pencil, little notes to herself. A metronome with a dead battery. A photograph of Emily at 19 at a rented upright with her hair a mess. And underneath all of it, a spiral notebook he'd never seen before. He didn't open it. He put the lid back on and shoved the whole thing to the back of the closet and shut the door and stood there with his heart going like a hammer. Not tonight, he thought. Not tonight. He would think about that decision every single day for the rest of his life. The next Tuesday, he almost didn't take her. He picked up his phone at 2 p.m. and got as far as the call screen, and then Lily came into the kitchen with her spiral notebook and said, I practiced on the table. I practiced on the table like 100 times, and she showed him her hands moving on the wood, playing an instrument that wasn't there. Nathan put the phone down. Get your shoes, he said. That was the day it started to get complicated. Because that was the day Claire said, Do you want to sit closer? You can't hear anything from back there. I'm fine back here. You're in the corner like a man waiting for a jury. Lily snorted, actually snorted. Lily, Nathan said. She's funny, Lily said. You never told me she was funny. I never told you anything about her. Yeah, Lily said. I noticed. Claire had to turn toward the piano to hide her face. He moved his chair 6 inches. It was a total surrender, and everybody in that room knew it. Week 3, Lily learned a scale. Week 4, Lily learned 2. Week 5, Claire said, Play it again, but this time play it like you're not scared of it. And Lily played it, and it was different. It was actually different. And Nathan sat in his chair with his hands on his knees and felt something in his chest crack like ice on a pond in March. Week 6, Lily got in the truck and said, Miss Claire said you have the same hands as before. Nathan's hand stopped on the ignition. She said what? She said you have the same hands as before. When you were reaching for the door, she said it kind of quiet like she wasn't really telling me. Nathan sat in that truck and could not move. Because 20 years ago, in a room with a bad radiator and a worse piano, an 18-year-old girl had taken his hand and turned it over and traced the calluses on his palm and said, You've got hands that fix things. Someday, somebody's going to be real lucky about that. Dad, your face is doing the thing. Put your seatbelt on. It's on. Put it on more. He didn't sleep that night either. Week 7, he noticed the necklace. He'd seen it before. He'd seen it every week. A thin gold chain and something small at the end of it that she kept tucked inside her collar. But this week she leaned forward to move Lily's wrist, and it slipped out and swung, and it caught the light, and it was a ring. A wedding ring. On a chain. Around her neck. Not on her hand. Nathan felt something go cold and sharp in his stomach. She caught him looking. She sat up and tucked it back in with 2 fingers casual the way you'd fix a strap, and she went right on with the lesson like nothing happened. Wrist up, sweetheart. Let it float. It won't float. It'll float. Give it a week. And Nathan sat in that chair thinking she's married, and then thinking, no, it's on a chain. People don't put it on a chain. When they're married, people put it on a chain when... He stopped himself. He didn't have the right. That was the truth of it. He'd had exactly one right where Claire Bennett was concerned, and he'd lost it at 18 when he stopped driving past her empty house. But that night, he stood in his kitchen at 11 o'clock with the lights off, and he said out loud to nobody, who was he? And that's when it happened. The Tuesday everything turned. Nathan got off shift late. Traffic on Charlotte was a nightmare. He came through the blue door at 4:22 with his jacket still smelling like smoke, apologizing before he was all the way in. I'm sorry, there was a wreck on..." He stopped. There was a man standing in the middle of Claire's studio. Tall, gray suit that cost more than Nathan's truck. Watch that cost more than Nathan's truck twice. Standing with his hands in his pockets like he'd bought the building and was deciding whether to keep it. Lily was at the piano, not playing her hands in her lap. Claire was standing between them. "And I'm telling you," the man was saying, "that this is beneath you. It was beneath you in Chicago, and it's beneath you here." Michael, $12 a half hour. Claire, $12. "30. It's 30. "Oh, 30. He laughed. "Forgive me, 30. And then he noticed Nathan in the doorway. He looked him over. Boots, jacket, the soot line at his wrist where the glove had ended. And he smiled. "You must be the dad," Michael said. "Nathan Walker." "Michael Carter." He didn't offer a hand. "Your daughter's very talented. Claire says so, and Claire never says so." "Michael," Claire said. "Not here." "I'm complimenting the child." "You're not." Nathan crossed the room. He picked up Lily's notebook off the bench, and he said quietly, "Lil, go wait in the truck." "But my lesson..." "Truck." She looked at him. Then she looked at Claire. Then she picked up her notebook and walked out. And she was 9 years old, and she understood everything. And Nathan hated that she understood everything. The door clicked shut. "Well," Michael said, "now we can talk like adults." "Who are you?" "I'm the man who's been waiting 11 years for her to get this out of her system." "Michael, stop it." 11 years, Michael said, and he wasn't smiling anymore. 11 years I've watched her rent rooms and teach other people's children and pretend that's a life, and then she moves to Nashville. And I ask her why, and she says the weather. He looked at Nathan. "The weather." Nathan's mouth was dry. "Michael, that's enough. She's been keeping a name in her mouth for 20 years like a stone she can't spit out," Michael said, "and I'd love to know sincerely what a man does to earn that, because I sure never managed it." The room was very quiet. Claire had gone absolutely white. Nathan looked at her, just at her, like there was nobody else in the building. What's he talking about? Nathan, Claire, what is he talking about? Michael pulled something out of his inside jacket pocket. An envelope. Old, yellowed at the edges, soft at the corners, the way paper gets when it's been handled 1,000 times. He held it up between two fingers. "There are 41 of these," he said. "She keeps them in a shoebox. I found them the night before our wedding." Claire's voice came out of her like something tearing. "Michael, don't you dare!" "They're all addressed," Michael said, "to the same person." And he turned the envelope around. And Nathan Walker saw his own name in handwriting he had not seen since he was 18 years old on the front of a letter that had never in 20 years been mailed. "You don't know her like I do," Michael said softly. "You don't know her at all. You just ruined her." Nathan couldn't speak. Claire was crying now silently the way people cry when they've had a lot of practice at doing it where nobody can hear. And out on the street in a parked truck, a 9-year-old girl sat holding a spiral notebook with stickers on the cover, watching the blue door through the windshield, waiting for somebody to come out and tell her what was happening. Michael slid the envelope back into his pocket and buttoned his jacket. "Friday," he said to Claire. "I'll be at the Hermitage, room 400. Bring the shoebox or don't, but be there." He walked past Nathan close enough that their shoulders brushed, and at the door, he stopped. "Oh," he said without turning around. "Ask her what happened in 1999. Ask her what she did in October. She won't tell you, but ask her anyway." And the blue door closed behind him. Tuesday, 4:41 in the afternoon, and the studio was so quiet, Nathan could hear the clock over the doorway counting off the seconds like it had somewhere better to be. Claire hadn't moved. 1999, Nathan said. "Nathan." "October." "Please don't do this here." "That's not an answer." "I know it's not an answer." "Then give me one." Claire put her hand on the edge of the piano, and Nathan watched her do it, and he understood that she wasn't leaning on it for balance. She was holding on to it. There's a difference, and he'd seen enough people hold on to things in his career to know exactly which one this was. "There's a version of this," she said, "where I tell you everything right now standing up in a room with the lights on and you never speak to me again. And there's a version where I do it right, and you still might never speak to me again, but at least I did it right. You think I care about right? I think you should." "Claire, you have no idea," she said, and her voice cracked straight down the middle. "How many times I have practiced saying this to you. Do you know how many I've said it to a windshield? I've said it to a hotel ceiling. I said it to a woman on an airplane in 2004 because she asked me a polite question and I almost told her the whole thing. So say it to me. I can't do it in 12 minutes with your daughter sitting in a truck." And that stopped him because she was right and because he hated that she was right and because in 20 years the one thing that had never changed about Claire Bennett was that she could put her finger on the exact place where he was wrong and press. He picked up his keys off the bench. "Nathan, she's got homework." "Nathan, look at me." He didn't. He walked out and let the blue door shut behind him, and he was down the walk and into the truck before he let himself take a full breath. Lily was sitting with her notebook in her lap and both feet on the dash, which she knew perfectly well she wasn't allowed to do, and she'd done it anyway to see if he'd notice. He didn't notice. "Dad," he turned the key. "Dad, who was that man?" "Nobody." He wasn't nobody. Nobody doesn't wear a suit like that. "Feet down." She put her feet down. That was how he knew she was scared. Lily only followed rules when she was scared. They drove 4 blocks in total silence. Then she said, "Miss Claire was crying." Nathan's hands tightened on the wheel. "You were in the truck." "I could see through the window. The window's right there, Dad. It's a window." "You shouldn't have been watching." "You put me in a truck outside a building and told me to wait. What was I supposed to do, close my eyes?" "Lily, she was crying and you were standing there like a statue, and then that man walked out and he was smiling." She said the word smiling like it was something rotten she'd found in the back of the fridge. Why was he smiling? Nathan pulled up to a red light on Charlotte at 4:53 and sat there and could not for the life of him come up with a single lie a 9-year-old would believe. "Because he won something," Nathan said finally. "Won what?" "I don't know yet." Lily looked at him for a long moment. "Are we still doing lessons?" And there it was, the question. The one he'd been dreading since the second that man opened his mouth. The light turned green. "Eat your ice cream," Nathan said. "I don't have any ice cream." "Then we'll get some." "Dad, that's not an answer." "Man, you two really are the same," Nathan muttered, and then he heard himself and Lily heard him too, and neither of them said one more word the entire way home. That night, 2:15 in the morning, Nathan Walker stood in front of his closet for the second time in his life with his hand on a blue lid. He'd worked a shift, come home showered, eaten, nothing lain in bed, with his eyes open for 4 hours, and now he was here again, because apparently that was what he did at 2 in the morning now. 41 letters. She'd written him 41 letters. He'd written her 3. He remembered every one. He'd written them at 19, at 20, and at 22, and he'd sent all 3 to the last address he had for her, and all 3 had come back with a yellow sticker on them. And after the 3rd one, he had taken them out to the burn barrel behind his father's shop and stood there for a long time, and then not burned them because he couldn't do that either. He'd put them in the glove box of a truck he no longer owned, and God only knew where they'd ended up. 3 letters. 41 letters. He'd spent 20 years believing he was the one who kept trying. Nathan took his hand off the lid and went back to bed and didn't sleep. Wednesday morning, 6:40 Station 19. Dale Pruitt had been Nathan's captain for 11 years, which meant Dale Pruitt could read Nathan Walker the way other men read a newspaper, and he'd been reading him since roll call. He waited until they were alone in the bay. "You're gonna hurt somebody." "I'm fine." "You checked that same coupling 4 times. "It's a coupling. It's important." "Walker." Nathan set down the wrench. "You ever have somebody come back?" he said. "Come back from where?" "From gone." Dale leaned against the truck. "Real gone or moved to Memphis gone?" Real gone. Disappeared. One day there's a person, and the next day there's a house with the lights off and a car in the driveway and nobody answering the door and nobody at school and no forwarding address, and everybody in town says her daddy had trouble, and that's the end of it, and you're 18 and you knock on that door every day for a month like an idiot. Dale was quiet. That's a specific hypothetical, he said. Yeah. She come back. She's teaching my kid piano. Dale let out a low whistle. Well, he said, that's a hell of a Wednesday. There's a man, too. There's always a man. He's got money. There's always money. Nathan picked the wrench back up and put it down again. Dale, I knocked on that door every day for 31 days. I know it was 31 because I counted because I was 18 and I thought counting meant something. And on day 31, Mr. Hallahan from across the street came out in his bathrobe and told me to quit it, that I was upsetting his wife, that they were gone. Son, they're gone, go home. And you went home. I went home. Nathan's voice went flat. And I built 20 years on top of one sentence. She left. That's it. That's the whole foundation. She left so she didn't love me, so nothing I felt was real. So it's fine. So I'm fine. And I married a good woman and I loved her. Dale, I loved Emily with everything I had. I'm not saying I didn't. I know. But there was a room in the house I never opened. And now this man is standing in a piano studio telling me there were 41 letters in a shoebox with my name on them. Dale took a long breath. And you didn't ask her? I asked her. And she said she couldn't do it in 12 minutes. Dale nodded slowly. Then give her more than 12 minutes. It's not that simple. Son, Dale said, you run into buildings that are actively on fire. You have literally professionally made the decision to walk toward the worst thing in the room, and you did it Tuesday and you'll do it again Friday. Don't stand in my bay and tell me you can't walk into a diner. Nathan didn't answer. Also, Dale added, the money man's gonna move fast. Money always moves fast. That's what it's for. Thursday, 4:15 in the afternoon, and Lily had her shoes on and her notebook under her arm, and she was standing by the door. Take those off, Nathan said. She didn't move. Lily, shoes off. It's Tuesday. It's Thursday. It's practice day. She said I could come on practice day if I wanted. Well, you're not going. Why? Because I said. And Lily Walker, 9 years old, 61 pounds soaking wet, looked her father dead in the eye and said, that's not a reason. That's a sentence. Lily, you always tell me because I said when you don't have a reason. When you have a reason, you say the reason. You said no trampoline because of the emergency room. You said no phone because I'm 9. Those are reasons. This isn't a reason. Nathan set his coffee down harder than he meant to. That man in there yesterday. Miss Claire didn't do anything. You don't know what she did. Neither do you. The house went dead silent. Lily's chin was shaking. She was standing in the doorway of her own kitchen, in her shoes with her notebook under her arm, and she was shaking, and she was not backing up. You don't know what she did, she said again, quieter. You just know a man in a suit said something, and now you're doing the thing you always do. What thing? The thing where something gets sad so you make it go away. Nathan's mouth opened. Nothing came out. You made the pictures go away, Lily said. You made her piano go away. You made her side of the closet go away, and you did it while I was at Grandma's, so I came home and it was just gone and you never said anything. You just made it gone, and I was 7, Dad. I was 7 and I thought I did something. Nathan reached for the counter. Lily. And now Miss Claire makes me feel good, so you're making her go away too. That is not, you promised Mom. It came out of her like a scream, and it wasn't a tantrum. It was worse than a tantrum. It was a 9-year-old girl saying the truest thing in the entire house. You promised her, Lily said, and now she was crying, ugly, gulping. You told her you'd let me find something, and I found it. Dad, I found it. It took me 3 years, and I found it, and it's this one, and you're taking it, and you don't even have a reason, because I loved her. The words hit the walls and came back. Lily stopped. Nathan stood in his kitchen with both hands flat on the counter and his head down and his heart going like he'd just come off a 4th-floor stairwell. I loved her, he said again, and his voice came apart. When I was a kid, before your mom, I loved that woman, and she left, and I never found out why. And now she's in a room with you every Tuesday, teaching you where middle C is, and I can't, Lily. I can't sit in that chair. I can't do it. I'm not strong enough to sit in that chair." Lily wiped her face with her sleeve. Then she walked across the kitchen and stood right in front of him. And she was 9, and she was small. And she said, "So don't sit in the chair. Sit in the truck. I'll go by myself." Nathan laughed. It came out of him wrong, half a sob. "That's not— You said you're not strong enough to sit in the chair. Fine. I didn't say you had to sit in the chair. I said don't take it away from me." He looked down at his daughter, and he thought with a kind of horror, she is going to be a lawyer or a heart surgeon or something equally terrifying, and Emily is somewhere laughing. "Take your shoes off," Nathan said. "It's Thursday. She doesn't teach Thursday." She said, "Practice day?" "Tuesday, Lil." Lily's whole body went loose with relief. "So we're going Tuesday." "I didn't say that. You said, 'Tuesday, Lil.' You said it out loud. I have a witness." She pointed at the refrigerator. "That's a witness. Go do your homework before I sell you." She went, and at the mouth of the hallway she stopped and said without turning around, "She's not a bad person, Dad." "How do you know?" "Because she asks about you," Lily said. "And she never asks like she wants something. She asks like she's checking on you." And then she was gone down the hall, and Nathan Walker stood alone in his kitchen at 4:31 on a Thursday afternoon and had to grab the edge of the sink. The first voicemail came Thursday at 9:12 at night. "Nathan, it's me. That's stupid, you know it's me. I'm not going to ask you to call me back. I just want you to know I'm not going to disappear. I know what that's worth to you. Nothing. I know it's worth nothing coming from me, but I'm saying it anyway. I'm not going anywhere." He listened to it twice and deleted it, and then sat there, feeling like he'd thrown something away he couldn't get back. The second one came Friday at 6:40 in the morning, which meant she'd been up all night, which meant she'd been up all night. "It's Claire. I know you work Fridays. I'm not going to meet him. At the Hermitage. I'm not going. I don't know why I'm telling you that you didn't ask." "Okay, that's it." He listened to that one 4 times. The third one came Friday at 11:50 at night, and her voice was different. Lower. Tired all the way through. "He's not lying, Nathan. That's the thing I want you to understand before I say anything else. Michael is a lot of things, and he's cruel when he's losing, but he's not lying. The letters are real. All of it's real. And 1999 is real. So when I tell you, you're not going to be surprised. You're going to think back on this message and know I gave you the chance to walk away first." A long pause, long enough that he thought the message had ended. "I'm at Wanda's on Gallatin on Saturdays. I sit in the back. I've sat there every Saturday for 2 years. Just so you know that if you come, I didn't pick someplace special. That's just where I sit." Nathan played it 3 times in a dark kitchen. Then he stood there for a while. Then he laughed once without any humor in it at all and said out loud, 2 years. Saturday, 8:20 in the morning, Wanda's on Gallatin. She was in the back exactly like she said, coffee, no food, a book she wasn't reading. Nathan sat down across from her, and neither of them said hello. The waitress came. Nathan said coffee. The waitress went. "Where's Lily?" Claire asked. "Dale's wife. She's making pancakes shaped like Tennessee, apparently. It's a whole thing." "That's nice." "Claire." "I know. Start at the beginning." Claire wrapped both hands around her cup. "April," she said. 1999. You'd know the date better than I would. You were the one who kept track of things. April 14th was the last time I saw you. You had a green jacket. You were standing by the music room door and you said you'd see me after 5th period and you didn't. Claire closed her eyes. "See," she said. "That's what I mean. You keep everything." "Tell me." "My father was an alcoholic." "I knew that." "You knew he drank," Claire said. "That's a different thing. Everybody knew he drank. What you didn't know is that in February he lost his job, and in March he lost the truck, and by April he was a man who woke up angry that he woke up." She turned the cup a quarter turn. "There was a night. I'm not going to tell you about the night." Nathan's jaw went tight. "Claire, I'm not going to tell you about the night, Nathan, because you'd get a look on your face and I'd have to look at it. So we're going to skip that. What matters is that my mother put 2 suitcases in the trunk at 11 o'clock at night while he was passed out in the front room, and she got my brother and she got me, and we were on I-65 before midnight, and I never saw that house again. The waitress set Nathan's coffee down. Neither of them looked up. You didn't call, Nathan said. I called. He went very still. What? I called, Claire said. From a gas station in Elizabethtown at 4 a.m. It rang 11 times. We had an answering machine. I know you did. It picked up. Then, I hung up, Claire said, because my mother came out of the bathroom and saw me at the payphone, and she took the receiver out of my hand and hung it up. And then she cried Nathan, this woman who never cried in front of me. One time in 18 years, stood in a gas station parking lot at 4 a.m. and sobbed and said, if he finds us, he will kill me, Claire. Do you understand that he will kill me? And you cannot leave a trail. You cannot leave one single thread, not one. And I'm sorry. Baby, I'm so sorry, but that boy is a thread. Nathan sat there. I was a thread, he said. You were the biggest thread in the world, Claire said. You were the only place on earth I would have gone. He couldn't speak. So I didn't call again, Claire said. I wrote instead. It's the only thing I could do that didn't leave a trail because I never mailed them. I wrote you the first one in a motel in Bowling Green on a piece of paper from the drawer with the Bible in it. I told you everything, where we were, what happened. I told you to come get me. She smiled, and it was the worst thing Nathan had ever seen. And then I put it in my bag and I didn't mail it, and I've been not mailing them for 20 years. 41. He counted them. He would. Nathan pressed the heels of his hands against his eyes. Claire, I knocked on your door for a month. I know. Every day for... Nathan, I know. He dropped his hands. How do you know? Claire looked at the table. Mr. Hallahan, she said. What? Across the street, the one in the bathrobe. He was my mother's cousin's husband, and he was the only person in that town who knew where we went, because somebody had to know in case of an emergency, and my mother picked him because he was 72 years old, and he hated my father. She swallowed. He wrote my mother twice a year, and in one of those letters in the summer of '99, he wrote, Tell your daughter the Walker boy is still knocking. Somebody ought to tell him to stop. The diner made its diner sounds. Plates, a door, somebody laughing at the counter. You knew, Nathan said. In '99. You knew I was looking for you. Yes. And you, yes. Claire. I read that sentence, Claire said, in a 2-bedroom apartment in Indiana, and I went into the bathroom and turned the water on so my mother wouldn't hear me, and I sat on the floor, and I was 18 years old, and I thought, he's still knocking. He's still knocking, and I can't answer, and every single day I don't answer, I'm the one doing this to him. Nathan's coffee sat untouched and going cold. Then why didn't you come back, he said. Later, 21, 25, 30. Claire, your father died. He died. I read it in the paper 2006. I saw it. I sat at a table and I read his obituary and I thought, now she'll come. I actually thought that. I was married. I had a wife I loved, and I sat in my kitchen and thought, now she'll come. Claire didn't answer. Why didn't you come? Because of 1999, Claire said. You just told me about '99. I told you about April. Nathan went cold. He said October. Claire looked up at him, and her eyes were dry now, and that was worse than crying. That was so much worse. Yes, she said. He did. Claire. Nathan. She reached across the table, and she stopped an inch from his hand, and she pulled back. I'm going to tell you. I swear on my life I'm going to tell you. But not in a diner on Gallatin at 8:30 in the morning with a waitress asking if we want the special. I'm not doing that to you. You deserve better than a booth. Don't tell me what I deserve. Somebody has to. He stood up so fast the table jumped. Nathan. He put a 5 on the table because that's what you do even when the world is ending. You put a 5 on the table. Nathan, please. Tuesday, he said, 4 o'clock, teach my kid. And he walked out. He made it to the truck. He got in. He put his hands on the wheel. He sat in the parking lot of Wanda's on Gallatin for 11 minutes and did not start the engine, and inside in the back booth a woman sat with 2 cups of cold coffee and a book she wasn't reading, and neither of them knew the other one was still there. Monday, 10:15 in the morning, station. 19. Nathan was hosing down the apron when the car pulled in. Black. Clean in a way cars in Nashville in September are not clean. Michael Carter got out. "You're kidding," Nathan said. 10 minutes. This is a working firehouse. I'm aware. I looked it up. You're at 40% capacity on a Monday morning and your engine's parked, so unless there's an emergency, you've got 10 minutes. Michael smiled. I do this professionally, Mr. Walker. I know when a room is free. Nathan shut off the water. Behind him in the bay, Dale had appeared, and behind Dale 2 more guys, and none of them were pretending to be busy. Say it, Nathan said. Not here. Here's fine. All right. Michael tilted his head. How much? Nathan blinked. How much what? How much to stop? The hose dripped on the concrete. You want to buy me, Nathan said. I want to compensate you, Michael said, for a decision you are going to make anyway badly over the course of about 8 months, and which will cost that woman what's left of her 40s. I'd like to save everybody the time. Get in your car. I'm not insulting you. I want that on the record. I've met 100 men like you, and I've never once thought less of them. Get in your car. But you are going to break her, and you're not going to mean to, and it's going to happen anyway, because you don't know what she is. You know what she was. That's not the same woman. That's a 19-year-old girl in your head, and you've been polishing her for 20 years, and she's not real. You don't know one thing about me. I know you're a widower, Michael said. The bay went very quiet. I know your wife's name was Emily, and I know she died in March 3 years ago, and I know you have a daughter with hands, Michael said, and I'd like you to understand that I didn't have to look any of that up. Nathan felt the concrete tilt. What? I said I didn't have to look it up. How? Because Claire told me, Michael said, in 2023, on a Tuesday. She came home and she'd been crying for 6 hours and she wouldn't say why, and then finally at midnight she sat down on the edge of the bed and she said, a man I used to know lost his wife. The world went out from under Nathan Walker like a floor. That's not possible. She was there, Michael said quietly. No. She was at the funeral, Mr. Walker. Dale said, Nathan. She stood at the back, Michael said. She didn't sign anything. She didn't speak to anybody. She flew into Nashville that morning and flew out that night, and she paid for the ticket herself, and she never told a soul except me, and she only told me because I asked her why her hands were shaking. Nathan couldn't get air. She was there, Michael said, at the worst hour of your life, standing 30 feet behind you, and she looked at your back for an hour, and then she went to the airport, and then she flew home to me, and she went into the guest room, and she stayed in there for 2 days. The hose was still dripping. Now, Michael said, and his voice was almost gentle, which was the unforgivable part. You tell me what kind of person does that, because I've had 3 years to think about it, and I still don't know. Is that love? Is that a sickness I genuinely don't know? But I know I sat outside that guest room door with a plate of food I made her, and I know I'm the one who was there, and I know that in 27 years of my life, the single hardest thing I've ever done was be the man in the hallway. He straightened his cuff. So no, he said. I don't want to buy you. That was theater. I wanted to see your face. He turned toward the car. Wait, Nathan said. Michael stopped. October, Nathan said. 1999. Just tell me. And for the first time, Michael Carter looked genuinely uncomfortable. No, he said. Why not? Because if I tell you, you'll hate her, Michael said, and if she tells you, you might not, and I love her. He opened the car door. I'd rather lose to her than win over her body. He drove off. Nathan stood in the middle of the apron with a hose in his hand. Dale came up beside him. Well, Dale said, I hate that man, and that was the most respectable thing I ever saw a person do. Tuesday, 3:58 in the afternoon. Nathan pulled up on Oak Street. He didn't get out. You coming? Lily said. I'm going to sit here. You said you'd sit in the truck. I was joking, Dad. That was a joke. I didn't think you'd actually... Lil. She looked at him. Whatever she saw made her stop. "Okay," she said. She got out. She walked up. The blue door opened, and Claire was there. And over Lily's head, Claire looked across the yard at the truck, and Nathan looked back, and Claire's face did something complicated, and then she took Lily's hand, and the door closed. Nathan sat in the truck for 30 minutes. At 4:35, Lily came out. She got in, she buckled up. She was quiet, and Lily was never quiet. "How was it?" "Fine. Just fine." "Yep." They drove a mile. "Dad?" "Yeah." "How come Miss Claire has a picture of you in her piano?" Nathan hit the brakes so hard the truck behind him laid on the horn. "What?" "In the bench. The bench opens, that's where the music goes. I was getting the yellow book and there's an envelope taped in the lid and it came loose and there's a picture in it." "Lily." "It's you," Lily said. "You're young. You're really young. You look like a kid. You're standing by a car and you're laughing at something, and there's a girl's arm in the corner because whoever took it cut her off." Lily looked at her father. "And on the back it says in pen, Nathan, April, 1999. Ask him about the gate." Nathan pulled into a gas station lot because he could not drive anymore. "The gate," he said. "That's what it says. Ask him about the gate." And Nathan Walker sat in a Shell station on Charlotte with his forehead on the steering wheel because 18-year-old Claire Bennett had sat next to him on a piano bench in a high school music room with a bad radiator, and she had taken his hand and put it on the keys and said, "See these two black keys right there like a little gate? C is always standing just to the left of the gate, every piano in the world. So if you ever get lost, you look for the gate." She'd been saying it to his daughter for 8 weeks. She'd been saying it to his daughter for 8 weeks in the same words in the same order, and he'd been sitting in the corner like a man waiting for a jury, and he hadn't recognized it. "Dad." "I'm okay." "You're not okay." "I'm okay, Bug." "Is she the girl in the corner of the picture?" Nathan lifted his head. "Yeah," he said. "She's the girl in the corner of the picture." Lily nodded slowly like a person filing something away. "Then why is she teaching me and not talking to you?" And Nathan didn't have an answer for that either. Friday 4:06 in the afternoon. Nathan was late. Traffic again, the same wreck spot on Charlotte, the same city, the same everything. Lily had gotten a ride from Dale's wife straight from school because it was a makeup lesson, and Nathan was pulling onto Oak Street at 4:06 when he saw the black car at the curb. He was out of the truck before he'd finished parking it, through the blue door. And there was Michael Carter, standing in the middle of that studio, folding a check in half on the closed lid of the piano. Claire was standing by the window with her arms crossed so tight it looked like she was holding her own ribs together. And Lily was in the corner chair, the parent chair, sitting very still with her hands folded in her lap and her notebook on her knees. $20,000, Michael said, and he set the check down. "Cancel every lesson, lock the door, be gone by Friday." "Michael, it's not a punishment, Claire, it's a bridge. Take a year, take 2, go anywhere. I'm not asking you to come to Chicago. I'm not asking you to see me. I'm asking you to stop doing this to yourself in a rented room on Oak Street." "Michael, there is a child in this room." "I'm aware of the child." Claire's voice went to a place Nathan had never heard it go. "Then get out." And Michael Carter turned around. He looked at the little girl in the corner chair, 9 years old, with her hands folded and her notebook on her knees, and something in his face was almost tender, and that was the worst part. That was the thing Nathan would think about at 2 in the morning for weeks after. "Sweetheart," Michael said, "go tell your father the piano is finished." Lily didn't move. "Michael." "It's kinder now," Michael said. "It is. Ask anybody who's ever been the one hoping." And Lily Walker, who had lost her mother at 6 and learned to close doors quietly at 7, stood up out of that chair. She put her notebook on the seat. She walked over to the piano, and she was so small next to it, and she picked up the folded check, and she held it out to him. "My mom's dead," she said. Michael went absolutely still. "So I know about kinder now," Lily said. "Everybody said that. Everybody said it's better this way. She's not hurting anymore. It's kinder now." Her chin was going, but her voice wasn't. "It's not kinder. It's just faster. There's a difference, and everybody who says it knows there's a difference." The room was silent. "Take your money," Lily said. "You're a coward." and behind her in the doorway, Nathan Walker stood with his keys still in his hand. Michael Carter looked down at that check in that little girl's fist for what felt like a year. Then he took it. He put it in his pocket. He buttoned his jacket. And he walked past Nathan without a word, without a look, and out the blue door and into his car and away. Nobody moved. Then Claire made a sound and crossed the room and dropped to her knees in front of Lily and pulled her in, and Lily grabbed onto her like she was drowning and started to sob finally at last, the way she hadn't at 7, and hadn't at 8, and hadn't at 9, huge and ugly and shaking. And Nathan stood in the doorway of a piano studio on Oak Street and watched a woman he'd loved 20 years ago hold his daughter while she came apart. "I've got you," Claire was saying over and over into Lily's hair. "I've got you, I've got you." And Nathan heard himself say from somewhere very far away, "Claire, tell me about October." Claire looked up at him over the top of his daughter's head, and she said, "Not with her here. She's not going anywhere." "Nathan." "She's not going anywhere," Nathan said. "She just faced down a grown man for you. She's earned the room." Lily lifted her head off Claire's shoulder. Claire looked at the child, then at Nathan, then at the piano and at the bench and at the envelope taped inside the lid that she'd taped there 2 years ago and had not opened since. She let go of Lily. She stood up. She went to the bench and lifted the lid and took the envelope out and held it in both hands. And Nathan watched her whole body change, watched 20 years land on her all at once. "October 12th, Claire said, 1999. "Claire, you were at your grandmother's funeral, in Bowling Green." Nathan's blood stopped. "How do you know that?" Claire looked up. "Because I was in the parking lot," she said. "I was in the parking lot," Claire said. Nathan didn't move. He couldn't. There was a 9-year-old girl standing 3 feet from him with a wet face, and a woman by the piano holding an envelope in both hands like it was something alive, and the whole room had gone so quiet he could hear the refrigerator in the back of the studio cycle on. "Say that again." "October 12th, 1999, Bowling Green, Riverside Chapel on Nash Road, 2 o'clock in the afternoon." Claire's voice was level in a way that scared him more than crying would have. There was a hearse and 4 cars behind it. The lot was gravel. It rained about 10 minutes before, and then it stopped, and everything was steaming. "Claire, you wore a suit that didn't fit. The sleeves were short. It was your father's." Nathan reached back with one hand and found the doorframe. "You were in the parking lot," he said. "Yes." "At my grandmother's funeral." "Yes." 6 months after. 6 months and 28 days, Claire said. "You're not the only one who counts." Lily looked from one of them to the other and then went very quietly and sat back down in the parent chair because she'd figured out the way kids do that if she made herself small enough, the adults would forget to send her away. "How did you even know?" Nathan said. "Mr. Hallahan." "Hallahan. He wrote my mother twice a year. He put it in the summer letter. Ada Walker passed the funerals in Bowling Green in October. That boy's still knocking." Claire's mouth moved into something that wasn't a smile. "My mother read it out loud at the kitchen table. She didn't know what she was doing to me. She was just reading the news from home." "Claire, I had $92, Claire said. "I want you to know that because it's the only part of this I'm proud of. I had $92, and I bought a bus ticket from Indianapolis to Bowling Green for 31 of them, and I sat on that bus for 6 hours with a shoebox in my lap." Nathan's chest was doing something he couldn't control. The letters. 34 of them by then. 34. I'd written them in motel rooms and apartment kitchens and in the back of a Buick, and I had them in a shoebox with a rubber band around it, and I was going to walk across that gravel and put them in your hands and let you decide what I was. And you didn't. No. Why? Claire looked down at the envelope. "Because you were holding your mother up," she said. Nathan's eyes closed. "She couldn't stand," Claire said. "Do you remember? She couldn't stand up out of the car, and your father was already halfway to the door. He'd already walked off. He did that. He always did that. And you came around the back of that car in your father's suit with the sleeves too short, and you put your arm around your mother, and you took her whole weight. She was crying so hard she couldn't breathe, and you just stood there and held her up in a gravel lot for about 4 minutes. And you didn't say anything. You didn't rush her. You didn't do that thing men do, where they pat you and try to make it stop. You just held her up. Claire, you were 18, Claire said, and now her voice finally broke. You were 18 years old, and you were the only person in that family who was standing, and I was 40 feet away behind a van with a shoebox full of the worst news of your life. Nathan opened his eyes. What news? The refrigerator cycled off. Claire, Nathan said, what news? Claire set the envelope down on the piano lid. Then she reached up and took hold of the chain around her neck and pulled it out of her collar, and the ring came out and hung there, turning a little, and she held it in her fist. I was pregnant, she said. Nathan didn't hear anything for a second. There was just a high, thin sound, like a truck backing up somewhere far away. What? I was 10 weeks pregnant, Claire said, standing in a gravel parking lot in Bowling Green, Kentucky on October 12, 1999, watching you hold your mother up at your grandmother's funeral. No. Yes. Claire, that's not... It's yours, she said. There was nobody else. There was never anybody else. There wasn't anybody else for 4 years after. There was barely anybody else ever. It was yours. Nathan's back hit the doorframe. He actually felt it hit, and it was the only reason he was still upright. Dad, Lily said from the chair. Neither of them heard her. You were standing there, Nathan said. His voice came out wrong. You were standing there and I was 40 feet away and you... Yes. You were carrying my... Yes. And you got back on a bus. I got back on a bus. Nathan made a sound. It wasn't a word. It came out of the bottom of him. Why? He said. Claire, look at me. Why? And Claire Bennett looked at him with 20 years standing behind her eyes, and she said, because you were the only one standing. That's not a reason. It was the only reason I had... It ripped out of her ragged, and Lily flinched in the chair, and Claire pressed her fist with the ring in it against her mouth for a second, and made herself get quiet again. Nathan, listen to me. Listen. Your grandmother had just died. Your mother could not stand up. Your father had already walked away from the car. You were 18. You had a scholarship. Don't look at me like that, you did. You had that piece of paper on your refrigerator. I'd seen it 100 times Western Kentucky. You were going to go be somebody. I didn't care about that. I know you didn't, Claire said. That's the whole thing. That's the entire thing, Nathan. You didn't care. You would have thrown all of it in a ditch. I knew exactly what you would do. I knew it standing in that parking lot. I could have written it down. You would have walked across that gravel and taken that shoebox out of my hands and said, okay, just okay, like it was a flat tire. And you would have gotten a job at the plant, and you would have carried me and the baby and your mother and your father and all of it. And you would have done it for 40 years and never once complained. And you would have been... She stopped. Say it, Nathan said. You would have been fine, Claire whispered. That's what killed me. You would have been fine. You'd have done it and been fine, and I'd have watched you be fine for the rest of your life, and I'd have known every single day exactly what it cost you. Nathan slid down the doorframe about 6 inches and caught himself. So you decided, he said. I decided. You decided for me. Yes. You stood in a parking lot at 18 years old and you decided what my whole life was going to be, and you got on a bus and you never... Yes, Claire said, that's what I did. That's exactly what I did. I'm not going to soften it, and I'm not going to explain it any better than that, because there isn't any better, there's just that. The clock over the door said 4:22. Nathan Walker stood in a piano studio on Oak Street and did math he did not want to do. 2000, he said. It'd be born in May. 2000. Claire didn't answer. Claire. Nathan. Where is he? Nathan's voice cracked all the way through. Or she. Where is there a... Claire, is there a person walking around? Is there somebody who's 26 years old right now who... No, Claire said. The word landed in the middle of the room like something dropped from a great height. Nathan stared at her. No, Claire said again, and her whole face came apart at once. No, there isn't. What does that mean? It means I lost her. Nobody breathed. Her, Nathan said. November 19th, Claire said. 5 weeks after the parking lot. I was in an apartment in Kokomo, Indiana, and it was a Friday, and my mother was working nights at the hospital laundry, and it started around 8 o'clock at night, and it was over around 3 in the morning. Claire, I didn't go to the hospital until the next day because I didn't want anybody to know, Claire said. And by the time I went, there was nothing for anybody to do about it, and a nurse who was about 50 years old held my hand for 11 minutes, and that was the only person who ever touched me about it. One nurse, 11 minutes, and then I went home and my mother made eggs and I ate the eggs. Nathan had his hand over his mouth. They said it was very common, Claire said. That's what they say. It's very common. 1 in 4. They tell you that like it's supposed to help, like the fact that a million other women are on the floor of a bathroom somewhere is a comfort. And they don't understand that when it's happening to you, it's 1 in 1. It's 1 in 1, Nathan. It's the only one there's ever been. Claire, stop. And I named her, Claire said. Nathan's hand dropped. You named her. I named her Ada. The room went absolutely, completely silent. After your grandmother, Claire said, because that's the last day I ever saw you. October 12th. That's the day I have. That's the only day I've got of the 3 of us being in one place on this earth, and it was her funeral, so I took her name. Nathan Walker went down. Not all the way. He got a hand on the doorframe, and his knees hit the floor, and he stayed like that, folded over one arm, up holding the frame, and he made a sound that a 9-year-old girl would remember for the rest of her life. Dad, Lily was out of the chair. Dad, I'm okay. He wasn't. I'm okay, Bug, I'm okay. You're on the floor. I know where I am. Lily put both hands on her father's shoulder and looked up at Claire, and there was nothing on her face but bare, uncomprehending fear. What's Ada? She said. And Claire Bennett, 41 years old, standing next to a rented upright piano with a wedding ring in her fist, said, Ada was your sister's sweetheart. Lily's hands went still on her father's shoulder. 4:29 in the afternoon. Nathan got up. It took him a while. Claire didn't come near him, and later he'd understand that it was the single kindest thing she did that whole day, because if she had touched him right, then he genuinely did not know what he would have done. He walked to the bench and sat down on it, because it was the only thing in the room to sit on. That wasn't the parent chair. 20 years, he said. I know. You had 20 years. I know. Your father died in 2006. Claire, he died. The thing you ran from was in the ground, and you had a phone, and you had my name, and you said Hallahan wrote your mother twice a year, so you had a mailbox, you had a way, you had every way there is. Yes. Then why? Claire wiped her face with the flat of her hand, once businesslike, the way you do when you've given up on stopping. Because in 2006, she said, I'd have had to knock on your door and say hello. Remember me? I left. And by the way, you had a daughter for 10 weeks, and I buried her by myself, and I've been carrying her around in my chest for 7 years, and I never told you she existed. And then I'd have had to stand there and watch your face. So you didn't. So I didn't. For 20 years. Nathan, every year it got heavier, Claire said. That's the part nobody tells you. It doesn't fade. It compounds. Year 1, I'm a scared kid who made a bad call. Year 5, I'm a coward. Year 10, I'm a woman who has actively chosen 10 times on purpose to keep a man from knowing his own child. Year 15, there's no version of me walking up your driveway that isn't a bomb. She laughed awful and wet. By the time I could have told you, telling you was the cruelest thing I could possibly do. And that's not an excuse. That's just the arithmetic. Nathan put his hands on the keys, not playing, just resting them there on the cold of them. Michael knew, he said. Michael found the letters the night before the wedding, in a shoebox in the back of a closet in a condo he paid for. Claire's voice was flat. He read 4 of them, that's all. 4 out of 41, and then he stopped, and he came into the bedroom at 1 in the morning and sat on the end of the bed with the box in his lap and said, Who's Ada? And you told him. I told him everything, Claire said. Standing in a bedroom in Chicago in a robe at 1 in the morning, 12 hours before 400 people were supposed to watch me get married. I told a man I'd known 11 years, the thing I'd never told the man who made it. And he still married you. No, Claire said. Nathan looked up. He wanted to, she said. He said we could go through with it. He said people carry things. That's what a marriage is. You carry things. And I stood there and I looked at this man who had just found out that the woman he loved had spent 11 years lying next to him with somebody else's name in her mouth, and he was offering to carry it. And She stopped. Her chin was going. You said no, Nathan said. I said no. Why? Because he asked me a question, Claire said. What question? He said, if Nathan Walker called this house right now, would you pick up the phone? The clock ticked. And I didn't answer him, Claire said. That's it. That's the whole thing. I didn't say yes, and I didn't say no. I just stood there in a bathrobe in a bedroom in Chicago with my mouth shut, and after about 30 seconds, he got up and put the box on the dresser and said, that's what I thought, and went and slept in the guest room. Nathan's hands were still on the keys. And the ring, he said. Claire opened her fist and looked at it. He left it on the counter in the morning, she said. He didn't take it back. He said, I'm not taking it. It was never mine. It was always yours. Do what you want with it. And I put it on a chain, and I've worn it every day for 11 years. Why? Because it's the only thing in my life, Anna Claire said, that somebody gave me without wanting anything back. And Nathan Walker, sitting on a piano bench in a studio on Oak Street, discovered that it was possible to hate a man and understand him in the exact same breath. 4:44 in the afternoon. Lily had gone back to the chair. She had her notebook in her lap, and she wasn't drawing on it. She was just holding it, and after a long time she said in a small voice, Miss Claire. Yes, sweetheart. Was she little? Claire's whole body went still. Lily, Nathan said. Was she? Lil, don't. It's okay, Claire said. She came and crouched down in front of the parent chair, which put her at eye level with a 9-year-old, and she took a breath. She was about the size of a strawberry, Claire said. Lily thought about that. That's really little. It's really little. Did she have a face? Lily, Nathan said, strangled. She was starting to, Claire said. Lily nodded slowly. She looked down at her notebook. She ran her thumb along the edge of the cover, back and forth, back and forth. When my mom died, Lily said, everybody kept saying she was in a better place, and I'd go, okay, and then they'd go, and she's watching over you. And I never said anything, but I always thought if she's watching over me, then she's not in a better place because she'd hate this. She'd hate watching this. She'd hate it more than anything. Lily looked up. So they were just saying stuff. Claire couldn't speak. People just say stuff, Lily said, because they can't handle it, not because it's true. And then she reached out and put her hand on top of Claire Bennett's hand, and Claire made a sound like something being pulled out of her by the root and dropped her forehead onto the arm of the chair. Nathan stood up off the bench. He came over and he stood there and he looked at the two of them for about 10 seconds, and then he said quietly, Get your notebook, Lil. We're going home. Claire's head came up. Nathan, I'm not doing this, Nathan said. I'm not doing this today. I've got Claire. I've got nothing left in me. There's nothing in there. It's empty. If I stay here another 5 minutes, I'm going to say something to you that I can't take back, and you don't deserve it. And also I do mean it, and I can't. I can't hold both of those at the same time right now. Claire nodded. She stood up. She wiped her face, and she nodded again, and she said, Okay. Okay. Nathan. He stopped at the door. I'm not going anywhere, Claire said. I want you to hear that. I'm not going anywhere. You can take a week, you can take a year, you can take the rest of your life, and I'm going to be on Oak Street either way. I did the leaving once. I'm not doing it twice. Nathan stood in that doorway with his back to her. You keep saying that, he said, like it's a gift, and he walked out. That night, 11:50, Nathan Walker sat on the floor of his bedroom with a blue lid in his lap. He'd taken the box out of the closet at 9, and he'd been sitting there ever since with the lid off and his hands not touching anything. The sheet music, the dead metronome, the photograph of Emily at 19 at a rented upright with her hair a mess, and the spiral notebook. He'd told himself in April, not tonight. He'd told himself that 100 and something nights. He picked it up, and Lily said from the doorway, Is that Mom's? Nathan didn't jump. He was too tired to jump. Yeah. How long has it been in there? Since a week after. 3 years. 3 years. Lily came and sat down next to him on the floor. She was in her pajamas, the ones with the moons. She didn't ask if she could. She just did. Did you ever read it? No. Why not? Nathan turned it over in his hands. Because as long as I didn't read it, he said, there was still something of hers I hadn't gotten to the end of. Lily leaned her head against his arm. That's the smartest, sad thing you ever said, she told him. He laughed. It hurt. You want to read it together? No, Lily said. I want you to read it out loud. Because if you read it by yourself, you'll do the thing where you tell me the nice parts and leave out the rest. I don't do that. Dad, I do that. Yeah. He opened it. It was Emily's handwriting, and the first thing he saw was a shopping list, and he almost couldn't go on because it wasn't it. That was the whole obscenity of it. A woman writing eggs tape Lily's shoes on a Tuesday afternoon with no idea. He turned the page, scales, fingering exercises, little notes to herself, a rough sketch of a hand with the knuckles numbered. He turned another page, and Emily's handwriting changed. Not the letters, the pressure. It got lighter. It got slower. It was the handwriting of a woman writing in a bed she wasn't getting out of. Dad? I'm here. He read it out loud. He kept his promise. He read every word of it out loud to a 9-year-old girl on the floor of a bedroom at 10 minutes to midnight. Nathan reads this eventually, he read. That's the only reason I'm writing it. Nathan, you're going to sit on the floor when you read this because you always sit on the floor when something's bad. You've done it since I met you. You go straight down like a building. Lily let out a wet little laugh. So, some things. Nathan's hands were shaking. 1. The piano is Lily's. Not because I want a piano player, because that kid hears things. She's been hearing things since she was 2. Don't let anybody tell her it's a hobby. 2. He stopped. Dad. 2, Nathan read. You have a room you don't open. I've known about it for 11 years. I'm not jealous. I never was. Don't do that thing where you feel guilty at a dead woman. I'm telling you, because you're going to do it again with me. You're going to take me and put me in a room and shut the door. And I know you, Nathan Walker. I know exactly who you are. You'll do it out of love, and it'll look like strength, and it'll be the worst thing you ever do to our daughter. Lily had both hands over her mouth. Don't make me go away, Nathan read, and his voice was gone. It was barely a voice at all. Don't make me go away to make it easier. She'll think she did it. Dad. 3. Nathan couldn't. Dad read 3. 3, he read. Her name was Claire. The room stopped. Lily's hands came down off her mouth. Nathan sat there on the floor of his bedroom with his wife's handwriting in his lap and could not make his eyes go to the next line. Dad, what does it say? Her name was Claire. Nathan read, and you said it once in year 2 in Gatlinburg at like 3 in the morning, and you were half asleep, and you didn't even know you said it, and you have never said it since. And I've thought about that one word for 9 years, which is probably insane, but you get to be a little insane at the end. That's one of the perks. I'm not asking you to find her. That's not what this is. I don't know her. I don't know if she's a good person. I don't know if she's alive. I'm asking you to open the room. Because here's what I figured out lying here, doing the only thing I've got left to do, which is think. You didn't give me less because of her. You gave me everything. You gave me so much it scared me sometimes. But there was a part of you that had a door on it, and I used to lie next to you and think, that's not another woman in there. That's not what that is. That's just Nathan at 18 still standing in a parking lot waiting on somebody, and nobody ever came and got him. Nathan's whole body was shaking now. So go get him. Go get that kid out of the parking lot, Nathan. He's been standing there 20 years. He's cold. Lily made a sound. And 4, Nathan read, and now he was crying so hard the words were coming out in pieces. And this is the real one. This is the one I've been circling for 4 pages like a coward. I hope Lily finds somebody who teaches her music the way I never got the chance to. I hope it's a woman with patience. I hope she's got scars. I hope she's the kind of person who knows that a mistake isn't the end of a song, it's just part of the song because that's the only thing I actually wanted to teach my kid and I'm not going to get to. And Nathan, if that woman ever walks into your life, if she comes in some ridiculous way through a flyer or a phone call or something stupid, and you know it's her and you get scared and you start doing the math on how you don't deserve it, let her in anyway. That's it. That's the whole thing. That's everything I know. Let her in anyway. I love you. I'm not scared. Don't let her see you close the door. M. The notebook slid out of Nathan's hands onto the carpet. He put his face in his hands, and Lily Walker climbed straight into her father's lap, 9 years old and too big for it, and not caring, and put her arms around his neck, and the two of them sat on the floor of that bedroom at midnight and cried until neither of them could see. 12:20 in the morning. Dad. Yeah. Mom picked her. She did. She wrote it down. She wrote it down before she even Dad. She wrote, "A woman with patience, and she's got scars, and a mistake is part of the song." Lily pulled back and looked at him with her whole face wrecked and shining. "Dad, that's what Miss Claire said. That's exactly what she said the second lesson. She said, a wrong note isn't the end of the song, it's just part of the song. She said it to me. She said it in that room." "I know. How did Mom know?" "She didn't," Nathan said. "She didn't know anything, Bug. She just knew what she wanted for you." "Then how?" "I don't know." "But how?" "Lily, I don't know. It came out too loud, and he caught it and brought it down. I don't know. I've been asking myself that since 8 o'clock. I don't have an answer. Maybe there isn't one. Maybe your mother was just the smartest person who ever lived, and she saw the shape of the hole before anybody fell in it." Lily wiped her nose on his shirt, which she was absolutely not allowed to do. "So what do we do?" Nathan looked at the notebook on the carpet. "I don't know that either." "Dad, I'm not lying to you," he said. "I'm never going to lie to you about this, I don't know. Because here's the thing, Lil. Your mother wrote, 'Let her in anyway.' She wrote that not knowing. She didn't know about a parking lot in Bowling Green. She didn't know about—" His voice failed. "She didn't know about Ada. If she'd known that, maybe she writes something different." "No, she doesn't." Nathan looked at his daughter. "What? She doesn't write something different," Lily said. "Dad, she wrote, 'I hope she's got scars.' She wrote that. She wrote it on purpose. Nobody hopes somebody has scars unless they mean the big ones." Nathan Walker sat there on the floor and got beaten in an argument by a 4th grader at midnight. "Go to bed," he said. "Dad, go to bed, Lily." She went, and at the door she stopped because she always stopped at the door. That was who she was. "Dad." "What?" "Ada's my sister." Nathan closed his eyes. "Yeah. So I'm not the only one." "Lil, I always thought I was the only one," Lily said. "That's all. I've been the only one my whole life. Only kid, only one who remembers, only one in the house." She shrugged one shoulder, and it was the loneliest gesture he'd ever seen a child make. "So it's kind of nice, that's all. Is that bad?" "No, baby," Nathan said. "That's not bad." Saturday, 8:20 in the morning, Wanda's on Gallatin. Claire was in the back booth. Coffee, a book she wasn't reading. Nathan sat down across from her, and she looked up, and whatever she'd braced for, it wasn't his face. "Nathan." "How long is the drive to Kokomo?" Claire went white. "What?" "Kokomo, Indiana. How long's the drive?" "Nathan." "Claire, how long is the drive?" 6 hours, she said. 6.5 with the Louisville mess. Nathan nodded. "Is she somewhere?" Claire's cup stopped halfway to the table. "Is she somewhere?" Nathan said again. "Is there a Claire? I'm not asking this well. I don't know the words for this. I don't know how anybody says this. Is there a place with her name on it? Anywhere?" Claire set the cup down very carefully, like it might go off. "There's a bench," she said. "A bench. In a park in Kokomo, by a pond. There's a program you can pay for a bench. It's $400, and they put a little plaque on it, and it took me until I was 26 to have $400. She was looking at the table. "It says Ada, 1999. She was here." Nathan put both hands flat on the table. "That's all it says," Claire said. "Because I couldn't put a last name on it. Because I didn't have the right to put your name on it, and I couldn't stand to put mine on it alone." The waitress came. Nathan said nothing at all, and the waitress, God bless her, read the room and went away. 26, Nathan said. 26. "How many times have you been—" "Once a year," Claire said. "November 19th, 15 times. I miss one when I'm sick." She looked up. "I went 4 days after I stood at your wife's funeral. I flew home from Nashville, and I got in the car and drove to Indiana and sat on a bench, and I said out loud to nobody, 'Your daddy just lost his wife.'" Nathan Walker put his face in his hands in a diner booth at 8:30 in the morning. "Nathan, don't," he said muffled. "Don't touch me, just give me a second." She gave him a second. He came up. "I'm not forgiving you," he said. "I know. I want to be really clear about that, Claire, because I know what I look like right now, and I know what you're going to do with it. I'm not forgiving you, not today. Maybe not this year. You took something from me and you can't give it back. And there's no version of this where I get those 20 years, and there's no version where I get to hold her, and there's no version where I get to be the guy sitting on that floor in Kokomo. And that's, Claire, that's not a thing you can fix. You can't fix it. It's not fixable. I know. You don't know because you've had 20 years and I've had 14 hours. Claire flinched. "That's fair," she said. "So no, I'm not forgiving you." Nathan wiped his face with the flat of his hand. "I'm asking how long the drive is." Claire stared at him. "Nathan?" "Because it's November in 7 weeks, Nathan said. "And there's a bench in a park in Indiana with my daughter's name on it that I've never seen, and I've missed 15 of them, and I'm not missing 16. Claire Bennett put her hand over her mouth and cried in the back of Wanda's on Gallatin. "That's not forgiveness," Nathan said. "I want you to know that. That's not what that is." "I know what it is," Claire said. "What is it?" "It's you showing up," she said. "It's the only thing you've ever known how to do." 11:15 in the morning, Oak Street. They were still 50 feet from the blue door when Claire stopped walking. The black car was at the curb. "No," she said. "Claire." "No, I told him Friday," I said. Michael Carter was on the step with a manila envelope under his arm, and he turned when he heard them, and he didn't look like a man who'd come to fight. He looked like a man who'd been up all night. "You brought him," Michael said. "Michael, go home." "Claire, go home. Go back to Chicago. There's nothing here. There was never anything here for you, and I'm so sorry, but you've got to stop." "Kokomo," Michael said. Claire stopped dead. "What?" Michael held out the envelope. "It's a deed," he said, "for the strip of land the bench is on, 1,100 square feet. I bought it in 2019 from the city because they were talking about redoing the pond, and I didn't want anybody moving that bench, and I've been paying the taxes on it for 7 years, and I never told you because there was no version of telling you that wasn't a bill." He was very steady. "It's in your name. It's been in your name since the day I bought it. That's the last thing I've got, Claire. That's it. That's everything I've got left, and I'm giving it to you, and now I've got nothing, so this is me asking." Claire couldn't move. "Asking what?" she said. "Come home." "Michael, I'm not a fool. I know what happened in that room. I know what he is." Michael's jaw moved. "I'm asking anyway because I'm 48 years old, and I have loved you since a Christmas party in 2014, and I would rather be humiliated on a doorstep in Nashville than spend the rest of my life wondering if I asked." The street was quiet. Nathan didn't say a word. Later, Claire would tell him it was the loudest thing he'd ever done. "Choose," Michael said. Claire looked at the envelope, then at the blue door, then at Michael Carter, who had sat outside a guest room with a plate of food he'd made her. "No," she said. Michael blinked. "No. No, I'm not choosing." Claire's voice came up out of the ground. "That's what I'm not doing. Michael, do you hear what you're asking me? You're standing on a step with a deed in your hand, asking me to pick a man, and he's standing right there and he's not saying anything because he already learned this lesson the hard way and you haven't." "Claire, I was 18 and my mother chose. She put me in a car at 11 o'clock at night, and she chose and I let her and I lost him. I was 18 and I stood in a parking lot, and I chose for him, and I lost her." Claire was shaking. "I was 30, and you chose Chicago, and I said, okay, and I lost 11 years. And every time Michael the choosing got done, and I was standing there watching it happen like weather." Michael's face was terrible. "I spent my whole life," Claire said, "letting other people decide where I belonged, including me deciding for other people, which is the same disease I just gave it to somebody else." She took the envelope out of his hands. "Thank you for the bench," she said. "I mean that. I'll thank you for that bench until the day I die, and I'll never be able to pay you for it, and you knew that and you did it anyway, and that's the best thing anybody ever did for me. Claire, and I'm still not choosing." She turned and looked at Nathan. "Not him either," she said. "Do you hear me? Not you either, Nathan. I'm not walking off this step into you. I'm 41 years old and I have never once one time in my entire life picked something for me and then stood there and lived with it. She turned back to Michael. So for once, Claire said, I want to choose. And she walked past both of them, put her key in the blue door, and went inside. Monday, 7:40 in the morning, and the blue door was locked. Nathan sat in the truck across the street with a coffee he wasn't drinking and watched a woman on the other side of that door not open it. And he understood somewhere around the 11th minute that this was probably what it had felt like to be her for 20 years. He didn't knock. That was the whole discipline of it. He sat there for 40 minutes, and he did not knock because he was 41 years old now and not 18, and because if he knocked, he would be asking her for something. And the one thing that woman had said, standing on that step with a deed in her hand, was that she was done being asked. At 8:22, the door opened. Claire came out with a bag of trash and stopped dead on the walk. They looked at each other across a residential street in Nashville, Tennessee. Nathan raised the coffee about 2 inches. That was it. That was the entire communication. Claire stood there with a garbage bag in her hand for a long moment. Then she put it in the can and went back inside and shut the door. Nathan drove to work. At 1:15 that afternoon, his phone buzzed in his locker. Tuesday at 4. She's got a lesson. Nothing's changed for her. He typed back with his thumbs standing in a locker room in his socks. And for you? The 3 dots came up. They went away. They came up again. Everything's changed for me. Tuesday at 4. Nathan put the phone back in the locker and stood there and laughed at absolutely nothing until Dale walked in and asked him if he'd finally cracked. Tuesday, 3:58. Nathan pulled up on Oak Street and put it in park and did not turn off the engine. You're doing the truck thing, Lily said. I'm doing the truck thing. Dad, you can't do the truck thing anymore. That was for when you didn't know. Now you know. That's exactly why I can do the truck thing. Lily unbuckled and turned around in her seat and looked at him with an expression that had come factory installed straight from her mother. Are you scared of her? No. Are you scared of the piano? Nathan didn't answer that one. Because it's just a piano, Lily said. It's not going to do anything. It's a big wooden box with wires in it. Get out of my truck. That's what it is. That's literally what it is. Miss Claire showed me inside. There's like a harp in there and a bunch of little hammers. It's a box with hammers. Lily, you're scared of a box with hammers. Nathan turned off the engine. He didn't decide to. His hand did it. He sat there looking at his own hand on the key like it belonged to a stranger. Lily went very still the way you go still when a deer walks into the yard. Don't say anything, Nathan said. I'm not saying anything. You're saying it with your face. I can't help my face. He got out of the truck. The walk to that blue door was about 30 feet, and Nathan Walker had run into a duplex with the second floor already gone, and it hadn't taken him as long. Claire opened before he knocked. She looked at him. She looked at the truck empty with the driver's door hanging open like he'd fled the scene of a crime. You turned it off, she said. Don't make it a thing. I'm not making it a thing. You're making it a thing with your face. It runs in this whole family, apparently. And Claire Bennett laughed. Out loud. First time in 21 years he'd heard it, and it went through him like a nail. He sat in the parent chair. 30 minutes. He watched his daughter play a scale badly, then better, then badly again. At the 22-minute mark, Claire said without turning around, Wrist up, sweetheart. Let it float. It won't float. It'll float. You said that in September. And it's floating more than it was in September, isn't it? Lily grumbled. Nathan in the chair put his hand over his mouth because he had just watched Claire's shoulders come down about half an inch, and he realized she'd been holding them up there the entire lesson, and she'd been doing it because he was in the room. At 4:31, Lily grabbed her notebook and went out to the truck, and neither adult had to say anything because that kid could read a room better than most detectives. Then it was the two of them. Nathan, I'm not staying, he said. I'm not staying. I just wanted to say one thing, and then I'm going. Okay. I read something. Claire waited. My wife left a notebook, Nathan said, in a box in my closet. 3 years. I never opened it. And Friday night I sat on the floor and read the whole thing out loud to my kid at midnight because she wouldn't let me do it any other way. And Claire..." He stopped. He got hold of it. "Your name's in it," he said. Claire's hand went to the doorframe. "What?" "She wrote your name, my wife. In her own handwriting 3 years ago dying, she wrote her name was Claire." "Nathan, that's not..." "I said it in my sleep in year 2 of my marriage," Nathan said, "in Gatlinburg. And that woman heard it and carried it for 9 years and never asked me one question about it, and then at the end she wrote it down and told me to open the door." Claire had both hands over her mouth. "That's not why I'm telling you," Nathan said. "I'm not telling you so you feel, Claire. I'm telling you because you said something on that step. You said you never once picked something and stood there and lived with it. And I've been thinking about that for 3 days, and I want you to understand that neither did I. You married her. I did. That was a choice." "That was a rescue," Nathan said, "for both of us. Her father just died and I was standing in a parking lot in my head and we grabbed each other. And I loved her, Claire. Don't misunderstand me. I love that woman more every year, and I'd give every year I've got left for one more Tuesday with her. But that wasn't choosing. That was 2 people not drowning." The clock over the door ticked. "So what are you saying?" Claire said. "I'm saying I'm not asking you for anything." Nathan picked up his keys. "You've had people asking you since you were 18. Your mother asked. Michael asked. I'd have asked at 18, and I'd have asked you for everything, and you knew it, and that's why you got on a bus. So I'm not asking." "Nathan." "November 19th, he said. "I'm going to Kokomo. That's not a question and it's not an ask. I'm going with you or I'm going without you. And if it's without you, I'll find the pond and I'll find the bench myself because I've got a phone and a truck and I'm not a complicated man." Claire's eyes were streaming. "That's the worst thing you could have said," she whispered. "Why? Because you meant it." Wednesday, 6:50 in the morning, station 19. Dale found him in this bay with his hands on the bumper of the engine and his head down. "You gonna throw up?" "I'm thinking." "You want to think somewhere else? Because Ramirez asked me if you were praying and I told him you were, and now he's real invested." Nathan didn't laugh. "Dale." "Yeah. I had a kid." Dale went quiet. 1999, Nathan said. "I had a daughter. She lived 10 weeks, and I found out about her 11 days ago." Dale Pruitt, who had pulled bodies out of cars on I-40 for 26 years and had a face like a closed door, put his hand flat on the bumper next to Nathan's. "Say her name," Dale said. Nathan's head came up. "What? You got a name, Ada." "Then say it out loud in a room with somebody else in it," Dale said. "That's the whole trick. That's the only trick there is. You can carry a thing forever if one other living person has heard the name." Nathan stood there in a firehouse bay in the dark with his hand on cold steel. "Ada," he said. "Ada," Dale said back. And that was it. That was the entire ceremony. 2 men in an equipment bay at 10 to 7 in the morning, and Nathan Walker cried for about 90 seconds with his forehead against a fire truck while his captain stood next to him and did not say one word. And then they got the alarm and ran a kitchen fire on Ashland City Highway, and Nathan carried a cat out in his coat and gave it to a woman in a bathrobe who kissed his hands. Thursday the 20th of May in the afternoon. The knock came on Nathan's front door, and when he opened it, Claire Bennett was standing on his porch holding a shoebox. Nathan looked at the box. He looked at the box for so long that Claire finally said, "I can leave." This was, "How'd you get my address?" "You're in the phone book," she said. "You're a public employee. Your picture's on a wall in a building with your name under it." And Nathan laughed out loud, standing in his own doorway with his heart going sideways because she'd been saving that for 2 months. "Come in," he said. She came in. Lily hit the hallway at a dead run, saw who it was, and stopped so hard her socks skidded. "Miss Claire." "Hi, sweetheart." "You're in our house." "I am." Lily looked at the box. Lily looked at her father. And then Lily Walker, 9 years old, said, "I'm going to Mia's," and got her shoes and walked out the front door, and Nathan stood there absolutely stunned. "Does Mia exist?" Claire said. "Mia exists. Mia lives 2 doors down. Mia's mother is going to call me in about 4 minutes, and I'm going to have to explain this." "That kid," Claire said, is going to run something someday. A company or a country, I don't know which. They sat at the kitchen table. The box sat between them with a rubber band around it, and the rubber band was not the original. It was maybe the 40th, and that detail was somehow the thing that nearly finished him. 41, Nathan said. 41. Claire, I can't read 41 letters. I'm not asking you to. I can't read one. Nathan. You don't understand what you're putting on this table, he said, and his voice went to pieces. You think that's a box. That's 20 years of a woman talking to me in an empty room. If I open that, I'm going to sit here, and I'm going to read every word of it in one night. I know myself. I'll be here till Sunday, and I'll come out the other side, and I'll be Claire. I'll be 18. I'll be 18 again, and I've got a 9-year-old and a shift on Saturday, and I cannot be 18. Claire put her hand on the lid. Then don't read 41, she said. Read one. Which one? That's the thing, Claire said. You don't get to pick. Nathan stared at her. I've thought about this since Saturday, Claire said. Because I know you. You'd read them in order, and in order it's a 19-year-old girl going insane in slow motion, and that's not fair to you, and it's not even fair to her. So, she took the rubber band off. You reach in, you take one, you read it. And then the box goes back on my shelf, and you can ask for another one in a year or 10 years or never. Claire, 1, she said. That's the deal. That's my choice. First one I ever made at this table. Nathan looked at the box. He reached in. His hand was shaking so badly it took him 2 tries to get hold of anything. He came out with an envelope, soft at the corners. His own name on the front in handwriting he'd known since he was 17 years old. He opened it. It was 1 page. It was written in pencil. Read it out loud, Claire said. What out loud? Claire, I can't. You read your wife's out loud to a 9-year-old at midnight, Claire said. You can read mine out loud to me at a kitchen table. Nathan wiped his face with the flat of his hand and started. March 11th, 2004. He stopped. 2004, he said. Claire, that's I was married. In 2004, I was married. Keep reading. Nathan, I saw a man at a hardware store today in Terre Haute who had your walk, not your face, your walk. He was buying a hinge. I stood in the paint aisle for 11 minutes waiting for him to walk past again, and when he did, I got a look at his face, and it wasn't you, obviously it wasn't you, and I went out to the car and sat there. Nathan's throat closed. He got it open. I want to tell you something I've never written down. I am not sad every day. That's the part I could never explain to you if you were standing here. People think this is a woman crying for 20 years and it isn't. Most days I'm fine. I make coffee, I teach a kid a scale, I laugh at things on the radio. That's what's obscene about it. That's the part I can't forgive myself for. I have a life. It works. It's not even a bad one. And then a man buys a hinge. Nathan stopped again. Claire had both hands flat on the table and her eyes shut. I hope you're married, Nathan read, and his voice broke clean in half. I mean that. I hope you're married to somebody who never left. I hope she's boring in the good way. I hope she's in the kitchen right now doing nothing, and you can hear her doing it and you don't even look up, because that's the whole thing, isn't it? That's the entire thing. Everybody's after somebody in the next room making a noise and you don't look up. Nathan put the letter down. I can't. Finish it. Claire. Nathan, finish it. He picked it up. And I hope she has your kids, he read. I hope there's 4 of them and they're loud, and one of them plays something. I'm not going to mail this. C. The kitchen was so quiet, Nathan could hear the clock in the living room. He set the page down on the table and put both hands over his face. One of them plays something, he said. Nathan. You wrote that in 2004. Yes. You wrote that in a car in Terre Haute in 2004, and now you're teaching her the gate. Claire couldn't answer. How is that? Nathan said. Claire, how is that? Somebody explain that to me. My wife writes, I hope Lily finds somebody. And you write, I hope one of them plays something. And neither of you ever met, and you're both writing about the same kid. She's 9. She was -5 when you wrote that. I don't know. That's not an answer. Nathan. I don't have an answer. Claire's hands came off the table. You think I haven't been up every night since Saturday. You think I don't lie there and go, What is this? What is it? Is it luck? Is it God? Is it some horrible cosmic joke where you get everything back 20 years too late so you can look at it? I don't know, I've got nothing. I taught piano in Chicago for 11 years and I moved to Nashville because I couldn't breathe anymore, and I told Michael it was the weather. And it was not the weather. And I have never in my life been able to say out loud what it was. Say it now. No. Claire. No. Why not? Because you told me you're not asking, Claire said. And if you're not asking, then I'm not answering. And that's the only thing standing between me and the worst mistake of my life. They sat there across a kitchen table from each other, breathing hard, like two people who'd just carried something heavy up a flight of stairs. Then Claire put the rubber band back around the box. 40, she said. What? You've got 40 left. She stood up. At the front door she stopped. Nathan. Yeah, that letter you just read. That was March 11th, 2004. Claire's hand was on the knob. November 19th, 2004, I sat on a bench in Indiana and told a 4-year-old who never existed that her daddy was probably married by now and had a bunch of loud kids. She looked back at him. I was off by a year and 1 kid. And she left. Saturday, 9 o'clock in the morning, the studio. Lily had been at it for 40 minutes, and Nathan was in the chair and something was wrong. Again, Claire said. Lily played it. It was fine. It was completely fine. And Nathan could hear that it was fine. And Claire said, again. Lily played it again. Again. Miss Claire, I did it right. You did it correct, Claire said. Correct and right are 2 different words, sweetheart, and you're old enough to know it. Lily's jaw set. Nathan saw it happen. It was Emily's jaw, and it was his jaw, and God help everybody. It's a recital piece, Lily said. I'm supposed to play it right. Play it like you mean something. I don't mean anything. It's a song about a bird. Then don't play the bird. Lily's hands came off the keys. What? Claire pulled the bench out and sat down on the end of it next to a 9-year-old and lowered her voice, and Nathan had to lean forward in the chair to hear. Sweetheart, look at me. December 9th, you're going to walk up on a stage in a community center, and there's going to be about 100 people out there, and every single one of them came to see their own kid. Every one. Nobody in that room is there for you except your dad. Thanks a lot. I'm not being mean, I'm being accurate. That's how recitals work. And you're going to play a song about a bird correctly, and they're going to clap, and then they're going to forget you before they get to the parking lot, and that's fine. That is a completely fine thing to do with a Tuesday. Lily was staring at the keys. Or, Claire said, or what? Or you play them something true, and 100 people who came to see their own kid go home thinking about somebody else's. Lily didn't move. What's true? She said. And Claire said very quietly, you tell me. Lily sat on that bench for a long, long time. My mom played piano, she said. I know. I don't remember it. Nathan's whole body went rigid in the chair. I've been trying, Lily said, and her voice went small and it went fast, all in a rush, like something that had been backed up behind a door for 3 years. I've been trying since I was 6. Everybody goes, oh, she'll remember she was 6. 6 is old enough. And I don't. I remember she smelled like the orange soap. I remember she had a chipped tooth in the front, and you had to know her to see it. I remember she'd let me have coffee if it was mostly milk, and we wouldn't tell Dad. Nathan made a sound in the chair. Neither of them looked at him. But I don't remember her playing, Lily said. And she played all the time Dad said she played all the time, and I was in the house. I was right there. I must have heard it 1,000,000 times, and it's just gone. It's gone, and I can't get it back, and I'm the only one who was there, and I lost it. Claire didn't touch her. That's what's true, Claire said. That's not a song. Sweetheart, Claire said, that's every song there's ever been. And Lily Walker put her hands back on the keys and played a song about a bird, and it was not correct. It was rough. She smeared 2 notes and dragged the tempo in the middle like she was hauling something. And Nathan Walker in the parent chair made a noise like he'd been hit. Claire didn't turn around. Again, she said. At 10:15, Lily went out to the truck for her water bottle, and Nathan got up out of the chair and walked to the piano and stood there. Don't, Claire said. I'm not. You've got your hand out. He did. He hadn't noticed. His hand was 6 inches over the keys, hovering there like it belonged to somebody else. "I don't play," Nathan said. "I know you don't." "I never learned." "She tried. Emily tried for 11 years. She'd sit me down about once a year and go, 'Come on, it's not hard.' And I'd do about 4 minutes and get up." "Why?" Nathan's hand came down, not on the keys, on the wood flat on the top of the case. "Because you taught me the gate," he said. Claire stopped breathing. "That's it," Nathan said. "That's the whole reason. That's the entire stupid reason. I was 18 years old in a music room with a bad radiator, and a girl put my hand on middle C and told me to look for the gate. And then she disappeared, and for 20 years, every time somebody put my hand on a piano, I heard your voice." He was shaking. "And I couldn't have my wife's hand on my hand and hear your voice. I couldn't do that to her, so I got up. Once a year for 11 years, I got up." Claire had her fist against her mouth. "And she knew," Nathan said. "That's the thing I can't get past. She knew. She wrote it down. That's just Nathan at 18 still standing in a parking lot. She had it. She had the whole shape of it, and she never once made me say it." "Nathan." "So no," Nathan said. "I don't play." The blue door banged and Lily came in with her water bottle and said, "What?" And both adults said, "Nothing," at the exact same time, in the exact same voice, and Lily said, "Okay, that's not weird at all," and sat back down at the piano. November 19th, 5:40 in the morning, Claire came out of the blue door with a canvas bag and got in the truck, and Nathan handed her a coffee, and neither of them said good morning because neither of them had it in them. In the back seat in a booster, she was 2 months from being done with Lily. Walker was already awake. "I'm coming," she said. Claire turned around. "Nathan." "Don't look at me," he said. "I told her no 11 times." "He told me no 11 times," Lily confirmed. "And then I said, 'Is she my sister or not?' And he didn't have anything to say to that, so here we are." Claire put her hand over her face. "Claire." "6 hours," she said. "It's 6 hours each way, sweetheart, and there's nothing there. It's a bench. It's a bench by a pond in a town you've never heard of, and it's going to be 38 degrees. I know. There's no place to eat. There's nothing to see. I know. Lily. She's my sister," Lily said. "I'm the only one who's got her. Dad's got Mom, and you've got Dad, kind of. I don't know what you two are doing. Nobody knows what you two are doing." "Lily." "But Ada's mine. She's my sister, and I'm the only sister she's got. And everybody in this truck has been to more funerals than me, and I've never once gotten to go to anything for her." Nobody said anything for about 4 seconds. Then Claire Bennett faced forward and put her seatbelt on and said in a voice that barely worked, "Drive, Nathan." He drove. They crossed the Kentucky line at 7:05, and Claire didn't say a word for 40 miles, and Nathan let her not say a word, and around Elizabethtown she suddenly said, "There," and pointed at a gas station off the exit. "That one? That one." Nathan didn't slow down, and Claire didn't ask him to, and they went past it at 70 miles an hour, and she watched it in the side mirror until it was gone. 4 in the morning, she said. "I know. It rang 11 times. "I know, Claire." "Your machine had your father's voice on it," Claire said. "Did you know that you never changed it? It said you've reached the walkers in his voice, and he sounded like he was mad about it." Nathan laughed. It came out of him wet. "He hated that machine," he said. "He thought it was a swindle." Lily from the back seat, "What's an answering machine?" And all three of them laughed at 7:20 in the morning on I-65 on the way to a bench, and that was the first time. Louisville was a mess. Louisville is always a mess. They got through it at 8:50, and Claire fell asleep against the window somewhere north of it. And Nathan drove with a sleeping woman on his right, and his daughter reading a book in the back, and he thought with something close to terror, "This is the thing. This is the thing I've never had. Nobody's asking anything. Nobody's crying. There's just a person in the next seat making a noise." At 10:40, Claire woke up and said, immediately fully awake, like she'd been swimming up toward it for an hour, "We have to make a stop." "Where?" 12 minutes off the exit at Franklin. There's a place." She was looking straight ahead. "Nathan, I have to make a stop and I have to make it before the bench, and I've been sitting here for 4 hours trying to figure out how to tell you, and I don't have a way, so I'm just going to say it. Say it. My mother's alive, Claire said. Nathan's hands went tight on the wheel. She's in a facility outside Franklin, Indiana, Claire said. She's been there since 2022. She had a stroke, and then another one, and she's got about 40% of her words, and she can't walk. And I go every third Sunday, and she's Nathan. She's not the woman from the gas station. That woman's gone. There's a small, confused person in that room who likes pudding and gets scared at 4 p.m. every day like clockwork, and nobody knows why. Nathan didn't say anything. You can drive past, Claire said. I'll never mention it again. I'm not asking, I know the rules. I'm not asking you for... What's her name? Nathan said. Claire looked at him. Dorothy, she said. Nathan put his blinker on. 11:22 in the morning. The woman in the chair was very small. That was the thing Nathan had not prepared for. In his head for 20 years, Dorothy Bennett had been 8 feet tall. She had been a hand coming out of the dark and hanging up a telephone. She had been the reason for everything. She was a small person in a cardigan with a blanket over her knees, and her hair was set. Somebody had set her hair. And when Claire came through the door, the woman's whole face opened up. Hi, Mama. Dorothy said something. It had about 2 real words in it. Claire answered it like it had been a full sentence. I know. It's Wednesday, that's right. It was Thursday. Nathan stood in the doorway with his daughter's hand in his and could not make himself go in. Mama, Claire said, I brought somebody. And Dorothy Bennett turned her head. She looked at Nathan Walker, and her face did something. Nathan felt it in his spine. Mama. Dorothy's hand came up off the blanket. It shook. It went about 10 inches and stopped, and she made a sound, and it wasn't a word. It was underneath words, and she was looking straight at him, and her eyes were going, Mama, it's okay. Dorothy said, the boy. Claire went white. Mama. The boy, Dorothy said, clear as a bell. 2 words out of a broken machine, and they came out perfect. The boy, the boy, the boy. Mama, stop. And Dorothy Bennett started to cry. Nathan came into that room. He didn't decide to. He crossed it in 3 steps and went down on one knee next to that chair like a man taking a knee at a scene, and he took that small shaking hand in both of his, and he said, Ma'am, look at me. It's Nathan. Yes, ma'am, it's Nathan Walker. Dorothy grabbed his hand. She had no strength, and she grabbed it anyway. Purse, she said. Mama, purse, purse, purse. Claire's voice cracked. She doesn't have a purse. She hasn't had a purse in 4 years. She just says, purse. And a 9-year-old girl said from the doorway, it's in the closet. Everybody turned. There's a closet, Lily said, pointing. There's a purse in it. It's on the shelf. I saw it when we came in. Claire opened the closet. There was a purse on the shelf. Vinyl, cracked. The kind of purse a woman bought in 1994 and never replaced. Claire brought it over with her hands shaking and put it in her mother's lap, and Dorothy Bennett couldn't work the clasp. Her fingers just went at it, and finally Claire said, Let me, and opened it. Inside was nothing. A comb, a hard candy, a photograph of 2 kids on a porch, and a wallet. Dorothy pushed at the wallet. Claire opened it. And behind the plastic window where a driver's license should have been folded into a square about the size of a stamp worn soft as cloth was a piece of a matchbook cover. Claire took it out. She unfolded it. And Nathan Walker on one knee, on the floor of a nursing home outside Franklin, Indiana, watched 27 years of a woman's life come apart in her hands. What is it? He said. Claire couldn't speak. Claire, what is it? She turned it around. It was a phone number. Written in a teenage girl's handwriting fast in the dark in a gas station parking lot in Elizabethtown, Kentucky at 4 o'clock in the morning on April 15th, 1999. Nathan's parents' phone number. She took it out of my hand, Claire said. Her voice had gone to nothing. She took it out of my hand at the payphone, and I never saw it again, and I thought she threw it away. I have thought for 27 years that she threw it in a garbage can in Kentucky. Dorothy Bennett said, mine. Both of them looked at her. Mine, Dorothy said, and she hit her own chest with the flat of her hand hard twice. Mine, my fault, mine. Mama, no, Mine. And the old woman said the longest sentence she had said in 4 years, and the nurses would talk about it for a week, and it came out in pieces with the wrong words in the wrong places, and every human being in that room understood it perfectly. I carry it, Dorothy Bennett said, so I don't forget what I did. I did it. I did it to her. Every day it's in my everyday. She'd carried it for 27 years. She had put a phone number in her wallet in 1999 and carried it through 4 apartments and 2 states and a divorce from a dead man and 2 strokes. And she had not carried it because she might use it. She had carried it as a sentence. Claire Bennett went down on the floor next to that chair and put her head in her mother's lap like a child. And Dorothy put her shaking hand on her daughter's hair. And she said, "Sorry, sorry, sorry." And she couldn't stop saying it. And Claire said, "It's okay, Mama. It's okay. It's okay." Over and over and over. And it was not okay, and both of them knew it, and they said it anyway. Nathan got up. He walked out into the hall. He stood against a wall with his hands on his knees, and Lily came out after him and stood there, and after a minute she said, "Dad, yeah, that lady's the one who did it. Yeah. And she's been punishing herself for it since before I was born. Yeah, Bug." Lily looked back at the door. "So there's nobody to be mad at," she said. Nathan Walker straightened up. "That's it," he said. That's exactly it. That's the whole thing, Lil. I spent 20 years with a villain in my head, and I drove up here to look at her, and she's 100 pounds, and she can't walk, and she's been carrying my phone number in her wallet like a rock since before I could grow a beard." "That's worse," Lily said. "Yeah. Why is that worse?" "Because now I got nowhere to put it," Nathan said. 2:50 in the afternoon, Kokomo, Indiana. It was 38 degrees exactly like Claire said, and there was nothing there exactly like Claire said. A pond, some ducks that had made a poor life decision about migrating, a path, and a bench. Nathan saw it from 60 feet out and stopped walking. Claire kept going about 4 steps and then noticed and turned around. "Nathan, give me a second. Take all of them." He stood on a path in Indiana in the cold and looked at a bench, and it was just a bench. It was a completely ordinary bench. There were probably 9 of them around that pond, and 8 of them said things like, "In memory of Carl who loved this pond." And this one had a plaque on it about the size of a paperback. He walked up. He read it. "Ada, 1999. She was here." Nathan Walker sat down on the ground. Not on the bench. On the ground in front of it, on the cold, dead grass, like a man who'd had his legs taken out. "Dad, I'm okay. You're on the ground. I know where I am," he said, and his voice came out in shreds, and Lily didn't argue with him. She just sat down on the ground next to him and took his arm in both of hers. Claire stood behind them. "I always sit on it," she said. 15 years I've sat on it. I never once thought about sitting in front of it." "I can't sit on it," Nathan said. "Why? Because that's hers." And Claire Bennett put both hands over her face and stood in a park in Indiana and made no sound at all. Nobody said anything for a long time. Then Lily said, "Dad, yeah, somebody's been here." Nathan lifted his head. There were flowers on the bench, not old ones, not blown in from anywhere. 6 white flowers wrapped laid on the seat of that bench, and the water in the paper hadn't even frozen yet. Claire made a sound. "That's not..." She was already moving. "Nathan, that's not mine. I just got here. I've been in a truck for 8 hours. Nathan was on his feet. "Who?" he said. And Claire picked up the flowers, and there was a card, and it was a plain white card in a man's handwriting, and it said 4 words, "Every year." Claire's knees went. Nathan caught her. That was the first time he'd touched her in 22 years, and it was in a park in Indiana, with a fistful of white flowers between them, and he caught her under the arms and held her up, and she went to pieces against his chest. 11 years, she said. "Nathan, 11 years. He never said 1 word. He sat in that house every November 19th and watched me put my coat on and drive to Indiana, and he was already here," Nathan said. "He came before me. He always came before me. So I'd never..." She couldn't finish it. Nathan finished it for her. "So you'd never have to thank him," he said. And Claire Bennett stood in a park in Kokomo, Indiana, and sobbed for the second man she had wrecked, and Nathan Walker stood there and held her up and looked over her head at 6 white flowers on a bench and thought with total clarity, I will never be able to hate him, and he knew that when he did it. Later, 3:30, maybe nobody was checking. Lily. Walker stood up and walked over to the bench. She looked at the plaque for a long time, then she said, "Hi." Both adults went absolutely still. "I'm Lily," she said. "I'm your sister. I'm 9. You'd be 26. I did the math in the truck." She had her hands jammed in her coat pockets. "I don't know what you'd be like. Dad says you'd probably be bossy because Mom said all the women in his family are bossy." Nathan's hand went over his mouth. "I'm doing a recital on December 9th, Lily said. "It's a song about a bird, but it's not really about a bird. Miss Claire says it's about the other thing." She scuffed her shoe. "That's your mom, Miss Claire. I don't know if you knew that." Claire made a sound like something breaking. "Anyway," Lily said, "I just wanted you to know somebody's got you. That's all. Because Dad's got Mom, and Miss Claire's got you, and everybody's got somebody, and I didn't have anybody, and now I've got you." She shrugged. "So it worked out. Kind of." And then she leaned down and put her hand flat on the plaque, the way you'd put your hand on somebody's forehead to check for fever. Nathan Walker turned around and walked 20 feet and stood facing the pond because there was a sound coming up out of him that no child should ever have to hear. They drove home in the dark. Lily was out by Indianapolis. Claire drove the second half because Nathan couldn't, and that was the first time in his adult life he'd let anybody else drive his truck, and he sat in the passenger seat and watched the mile markers. At 9:40 at night, somewhere south of Louisville, Claire said, "Ask me." Nathan didn't move. "You said you weren't going to ask. 2 months ago. In the studio, you said you're not asking me for anything, and you meant it, and it's the only reason I'm still standing." Her eyes were on the road. "But I'm asking you to ask me." "Claire, ask me why I moved to Nashville." The truck ran on. The lines went by. "Why'd you move to Nashville?" Nathan said. And Claire Bennett said, "Because in the summer of 2023, a hospice nurse in Chicago told me about a website. It's a thing they do. Families put up a page. And I typed your name into a search bar at 1 o'clock in the morning like I'd done maybe 100 times in 20 years, and it came up." Nathan's whole body went cold. "And there was a photograph," Claire said, "of you, and a woman, and a little girl about 6, and it said, Emily Walker, 1985 to 2023. "Claire." "And I sat there," Claire said, "and I want to tell you I was sad. I want to tell you that. I was sad, Nathan. I swear to God, I was sad for that woman I never met, and I've never stopped being sad for her." She took a breath. "But the first thing," she said, "the very first thing before the sadness, in about a quarter of a second before I could stop it," her voice went to nothing, "was hope," she said. "The first thing I felt was hope." The truck was doing 70. Neither of them was breathing. "That's who I am," Claire said. "That's what you'd be taking on. A woman who read that a mother of a 6-year-old died and felt hope for a quarter of a second." She was crying now and driving perfectly both hands at 10 and 2. "I've never said that out loud. Not to Michael, not to a priest, not to that bench. I've carried that for 3 years, and it's worse than the letters, and it's worse than the parking lot, and it might even be worse than what I did to you, and I'm telling you now, tonight at 10 o'clock at night on I-65, because you have a right to know it before you decide anything. Claire, I flew down for the funeral," Claire said, "to punish myself. That's why I went. Not to comfort you. I never intended to talk to you. I went so I'd have to stand there and look at what I'd hoped for, and I stood in the back and I looked at your back for an hour, and it didn't work." "What do you mean it didn't work?" "I mean, I stood there," Claire said, "at that woman's funeral, and I looked at you and I still wanted you. Nothing cured it. 24 years, a dead child, a man in Chicago who'd have given me the world in a funeral, and nothing cured it." Nathan couldn't speak. "So there it is," Claire said. "That's all of it. There's nothing left in the box. You know every single thing about me now, including the thing I'd have taken to the grave, and you can tell me to pull over at the next exit, and I'll do it. I'll drive you home first, and then I'll go, and I'll never come back, and I'll mean it this time." The mile markers went by. At 9:48, Nathan Walker said, "Take the next exit." Claire's hands didn't move on the wheel. Her whole face went everything all at once, but her hands did not move because there was a sleeping 9-year-old in the back seat. "Okay," she said. She took the exit. There was a gas station. She pulled in. She put it in park. She sat there looking straight ahead through the windshield at nothing at all. "Claire." "Don't," she said. "Please, just get out. Please. I'm asking you for one thing in 27 years. Just get out of the truck and don't say anything. Claire, look at me. I can't." "Claire." She turned her head, and Nathan Walker said, "I was in that room too." Claire stopped. "What told? March 2023, Nathan said. "The last week. She'd been out for 2 days. They said the hearing goes last. They always say that. And I was sitting there at 2 in the morning holding my wife's hand." His voice was almost gone. "And I prayed, Claire. And I want you to hear what I prayed. I didn't pray for her to live. I'd stopped praying for that in February." Claire's hand came up to her mouth. "I prayed for it to be over," Nathan said. "I sat there holding the hand of the best woman I ever knew, and I prayed for it to be over because I was tired, because I hadn't slept in a month, because I wanted to go home and lie down. That's it. That's the reason. Not for her. For me." "Nathan, she died 40 minutes later," he said. The gas station sign hummed. "So don't," Nathan said. "Don't sit there and tell me what you'd take on, like you're the only one at this table who's got a thing they'd never say out loud. You want to compare? Because I'll go. I've got a whole box of them, Claire. I've had 20 years, too." Claire was shaking her head fast, over and over. "That's not the same. That's not—" "It's exactly the same," Nathan said. "It's exactly the same, and you know it's the same. And the only difference is, you've had 3 years of hating yourself for a quarter of a second, and I've had 3 years of hating myself for 40 minutes, and neither one of us has ever had one single person in the room when we said it." Claire made a sound. "You're in the room," Nathan said. "That's all this is. I'm not forgiving you. I'm still not. I told you I don't know if I ever will, but you're in the room." Claire Bennett put her forehead on the steering wheel of a fire captain's truck at a gas station off I-65 at 10 o'clock at night and cried like a person who had been holding a door shut with her shoulder for 27 years and had finally let go of it. And from the back seat, small and thick with sleep, a voice said, "Are we there?" Both of them jumped a foot. "No bug," Nathan said, and his voice was wrecked and he was laughing. "Go back to sleep. You guys are loud. Go to sleep, Lily. Miss Claire's crying." "I'm okay, sweetheart," Claire said. "Okay," Lily said, and then already going under, mumbled into her coat. "Dad, get her a napkin. There's napkins in the door." There were napkins in the door. Nathan got her a napkin. And that he would think later was the moment. Not the bench, not the parking lot, not any of it. A gas station off I-65 at 10:04 at night, a kid asleep in the back, a woman crying at the wheel, and a man handing her a napkin out of the door pocket of a truck. December 9th, 6:40 in the evening. The community center smelled like coffee and floor wax, and about 100 people were in folding chairs, and every single one of them was there to see their own kid exactly like Claire said. Lily was 11th out of 14. She'd been silent for 2 hours. Nathan had never in his life seen that child silent for 2 hours. "Bug, don't." "I was just going to say, Dad, I know what you were going to say, and if you say it, I'm going to cry, and then I can't see the keys." Nathan shut up. Claire came down the row and crouched in front of the chair and took both of Lily's hands. Hey, you scared?" "Yeah." "Good," Claire said. Lily let out a shaky laugh. "That's terrible advice." "It's not advice, it's just true." Claire squeezed her hands. "Listen to me, it's not a bird." "It's not a bird. What is it?" Lily's chin went. "It's the thing I can't remember," she said. "That's right. Miss Claire." "You don't have to play it well," Claire said. "I want you to hear me. You do not have to play it well. 12 people out there are going to play it well tonight, and nobody's going to remember one of them by Christmas. So what do I do?" And Claire Bennett said, "Just tell them the truth and get off the stage." They called her name at 7:22. Lily Walker stood up. She walked to the front of a community center in Nashville, Tennessee, and climbed onto the bench of a piano that was too big for her, and she looked out at 100 people who had come to see somebody else, and she found her father in the fourth row. And Nathan Walker, 38 years old, who had not sat at a piano in 11 years, who had gotten up 4 minutes in every single time, put his hand flat on his chest. That was all. That was the whole signal. He didn't know where he'd learned it. Lily nodded once, and she put her hands over the keys, and she looked down, and she looked for the gate. She found it. Nathan saw her find it. He was in the fourth row, and he watched his daughter's eyes go down to those 2 black keys standing there like a little gate, and he watched her hand settle to the left of it, the way a bird settles, and he thought, she's not counting. She's feeling for it. Somebody taught her that. And then Lily Walker played the first note of a song about a bird. It was late. Not wrong. Late. A full beat late, and a woman 2 rows back made a small, sympathetic noise, the kind 100 people make in folding chairs when somebody's kid stumbles and Nathan's whole body locked up so hard the chair creaked. Claire, standing against the wall by the door, didn't move a muscle. Lily played the second note, late again, and Nathan understood about half a second before anybody else in that room that she wasn't behind. She was dragging it on purpose. She had taken a piece written for a 9-year-old to rattle off in 90 seconds, and she was hauling it like a kid pulling a sled uphill, and every note landed a half beat after your ear went out looking for it, and it made 100 people lean forward without one of them knowing why. The woman 2 rows back stopped making noises. At 40 seconds in the bird song stopped being a bird song. Nathan had heard that piece maybe 400 times through a wall. He knew it in his teeth. And what came out of that piano at 7:23 on a Tuesday night in December was not it, and it was not the arrangement in the Yellow Book either, because somewhere in the middle of the second phrase, his daughter left the page. Lily Walker went off the page. Nathan's hand came off his chest and grabbed the back of the chair in front of him hard enough that the man in it turned around, because there was a thing in there. 4 notes, just 4 folded into the middle of that song like a hand slipped into a coat pocket, and Nathan Walker sat in a folding chair in a community center in Nashville, Tennessee, and every hair on his body stood straight up. He knew those 4 notes. He had heard those 4 notes through a wall on 100 Sunday mornings coming out of a rented upright in a house with a woman still living in it. Emily's warm-up. The stupid little 4-note thing she did before she played anything, every time, since she was 19 years old. The thing she did so automatically she didn't know. She did it the thing Nathan used to hear from the kitchen with his hands in the sink and know without turning around that his wife was about to be happy for 20 minutes. Lily put it in the song. Nathan made a sound in the fourth row. He heard himself make it. A grown man in a folding chair in public, and he clamped his hand over his mouth, and it came out anyway into his palm, and the man next to him turned and then looked away fast the way people do. Lily played the 4 notes again, and again. She built the last third of that song around her mother's warm-up, and she was 9 years old, and she had never once in her life heard anybody tell her that was allowed, and at the end, she didn't finish it. She let the last chord go, and she took her hands off the keys, and she gave that room 4 full seconds of nothing at all, 4 seconds of 100 people not breathing. Then she stood up and walked off the stage. Just like Claire said, tell them the truth and get off. The applause didn't come right away. That was the part Nathan would tell people about for the rest of his life. It didn't come. There was a gap. There was a hole in that room about the size of 2 seconds, and Nathan sat in the middle of it with his hand over his mouth, and then it broke, and it broke hard, and 100 people who had come to see their own kid stood up out of folding chairs for somebody else's. A man 3 rows ahead said out loud, "What was that?" And Nathan Walker, wrecked, laughing blind, said to nobody at all, "That's my daughter." 7:29, and he was already moving. He got about 6 steps up the aisle before a woman put her hand on his arm. "Excuse me, are you her father?" "Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry I've got to—" "That thing in the middle." Nathan stopped. "Ma'am." The woman was about 60. She had her coat over her arm and her program folded in half, and she was looking at him with an expression he couldn't read at all. "That thing in the middle of it," she said. "The 4 notes. Where'd she get that?" Nathan's mouth went dry. "Why?" he said. "Because I know it," the woman said. "I taught at Hillwood 19 years. And there was a girl who came through my room around 2003 who did that exact little thing before she played anything, drove me up a wall. I used to tell her, honey, that's not a piece, that's a tick. She stopped. Her face changed. Oh. Nathan couldn't speak. Oh, the woman said again, quieter. Emily. Yes, ma'am. The woman put her hand over her mouth. I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry. I read about it. I sent a card. I don't know if you... We got a lot of cards, Nathan said. His voice was in pieces. I never read one of them. That's the truth. I never read a single one, and I felt bad about it for 3 years. That's all right, son. No, ma'am, it's not. The woman looked past him toward the stage door. That child put her mother in a bird song, she said, in front of 100 people who came to hear their own kids play scales. Do you know what that is? No, ma'am. Neither do I, she said. I taught 19 years and I've never seen it once. And she patted his arm and walked away. And Nathan Walker stood in an aisle in a community center and had to hold on to the back of a chair. 731, the hallway by the coat rack. Lily was standing there with her hands at her sides and her whole body vibrating like a struck string, and when she saw him, she didn't run at him. She just stood there. Dad? Lil? Was it okay? Nathan got down on one knee on a floor that smelled like coffee and wax. Where did you get it? He said. Her chin went. Bug. Where did you get it? I don't know. Lily. I don't know. And it came all at once the way it did with her ugly and immediate. I swear, Dad, I wasn't going to do it. It wasn't in the thing. Miss Claire didn't teach me that. I got up there and I looked at you and I put my hands down and it was just there. It came out of my hands. It came out of my hands and I didn't put it there. You remember, Nathan said. No, Lily, you remember. I don't remember, she said. That's what I'm telling you. I can't see it. I still can't see her. I've been trying for 3 years and there's nothing there. And she hit her own chest with her fist hard, twice the exact gesture a small woman in a chair in Indiana would make 3 weeks later, and Nathan almost went over sideways. But my hands remember, Dad. My hands remember, and I don't. How is that fair? How is that fair? My hands got to keep her, and I didn't. Nathan took his daughter by both shoulders while 100 people applauded through a wall. Listen to me. Dad, you were 3 years old. Nathan said, sitting on that floor with a box of crackers while she played. Every morning, every single morning, Lil, before you could talk. You heard that thing before you had words for anything. So it went in underneath, Nathan said. It went in under the words. That's the deepest place there is. Baby, that's not a memory. That's better than a memory. You didn't lose her. You put her somewhere the fire couldn't get. Lily's face came apart. I've been so scared, she said. I know. I thought I was a bad daughter. Lily, I thought there was something wrong with me because I can remember the orange soap and the chipped tooth, and I can't remember her. There's nothing wrong with you. Everybody remembers their mom. There is nothing wrong with you, Nathan said, and it came out of him like a wall coming down. There has never been one thing wrong with you, and I'm going to say that to you every day until you're 40 and sick of hearing it. And Lily Walker put her arms around her father's neck in a hallway and hung on. Over the top of her head, Nathan saw Claire. She was at the end of that hall with her back flat against the cinder block and both hands over her mouth, and she was not coming closer. And Nathan understood exactly why she was not coming closer, and it broke something in him that had been holding since October. He put his hand out, not a gesture, not a signal. He just put his hand out into the air across 20 feet of hallway, the way a man does when there's smoke and shouting won't carry. Claire looked at it a long time. Then she came. She crossed that hallway and took his hand and went down on her knees on linoleum, and Lily let go of her father's neck and grabbed onto Claire without even checking who it was, because she knew. And the three of them stayed down there while the 11th, 12th, and 13th performers of the evening played their pieces correctly to a room that had already gotten what it came for. 7:52, and Nathan stood up to get their coats and looked at the back doors and stopped breathing. Michael Carter was standing there, gray overcoat, hands at his sides, standing at the very back of a community center in Nashville, Tennessee, 400 miles from home on a Tuesday night in December. Nathan didn't move. Michael looked at him. And Michael Carter did a thing that Nathan Walker would carry to the end of his life. He raised 2 fingers off his thigh about 4 inches and nodded once. Not friendly, not hostile. The way one man acknowledges another across a room when there is absolutely nothing left to say. Then he pushed the door open with his shoulder and walked out into the cold. Claire. What? Nathan looked at the door. Nothing, he said. He never told her. Not that year, not the next, not the 10 after that. Some things you get to keep for a man who'd hate being thanked. 8:15, the parking lot. Where'd she go? Bathroom, Claire said. She's not in the bathroom. She's out here looking at her reflection in car windows. She does that when she's proud and doesn't want anybody to see her being proud. Nathan. What? Claire was standing about 4 feet away with her arms crossed against the cold. You put your hand out, she said. Nathan looked at his boots. Yeah. You haven't touched me since Indiana. I know. That's 4 weeks. I can count Claire. I'm not accusing you. Her voice was so careful it hurt to listen to. I'm telling you I noticed. That's all. I've noticed everything for 4 weeks. It's the only skill I've got. Nathan looked up. I don't know what I'm doing, he said. I know. No, listen, I don't know what I'm doing. I've been getting up at 4 in the morning for a month and standing in my kitchen in the dark like a lunatic, and I have the same argument with myself every single day, and I lose both sides of it. What's the argument? Nathan's jaw worked. That if I let you in, he said, I'm saying it was worth it. Claire went very still. That's the whole thing, Nathan said. That's the piece I can't get around. If I let you in and I'm happy, then it worked. Then the bus worked. Then the parking lot worked. Then 20 years of you not calling was the right call, and I can't sign that, Claire. I can't put my name on it. Because if it was the right call, then Ada... He stopped. Say it, Claire said. Then Ada was for something, Nathan said, and she wasn't. She wasn't for anything. She was 10 weeks, and she wasn't for anything, and I won't let anybody, including me, turn my kid into a reason. Claire closed her eyes. That's it, she said. What? That's my 4 this morning, Claire said. Word for word. I've been having that exact argument since 2001. She laughed, and it was awful, and it was all so real. That's the joke of us, 20 years apart in 2 different states, losing the same argument at the same hour. So how do you win it? You don't. Claire, there's no version where you win it. I've been at it 25 years. She shrugged, and it was the loneliest thing he'd ever seen a grown woman do. It just stops being the only thing in the room. When? I don't know, Claire said. I was going to ask you. I thought you'd know by now. And Nathan Walker laughed out loud in a parking lot in December and put both hands over his face. Dad, Lily coming across the asphalt with her coat half on. Are you 2 fighting? No, both of them said. You're standing 4 feet apart in the cold with your arms crossed. That's fighting. That's literally what fighting looks like. Get in the truck, Lil. Miss Claire, is he being weird? He's being extremely weird, Claire said. Get in the truck. She got in the truck. And through the window, muffled but perfectly audible, both of them heard her say, Unbelievable. January 11th, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the blue door. Same as it ever was, except Nathan Walker walked in and didn't go to the parent chair. He stopped in the middle of the room with his coat still on. Claire noticed. Claire noticed everything. What? Nothing. Nathan? Teach me, he said. The room went dead. Lily's head came up off her notebook so fast she nearly hurt herself. What? Claire said. You heard me. Nathan. 11 years my wife tried, Nathan said. Once a year. I'd sit down and last about 4 minutes and get up every single time, and I never told her why, and she went in the ground not knowing why. That's mine. I don't get to give that back. His hands were shaking. But I'm not doing it twice. Claire couldn't speak. You put my hand on a piano when I was 18 years old, Nathan said, and then you left and I let that be the end of the sentence for 20 years. So finish it. You'll hate it. Probably. You'll be terrible. Nathan, you'll be genuinely terrible. You're 38. Your hands are... She gestured helplessly at all of him. Your hands are like bricks. You've broken every finger you own at least once. Twice on this one, Nathan said, holding it up. You'll last 4 minutes. Then time me, Nathan said, and Lily Walker, 9 years old, slid off the bench, stood up, and said in the voice of a woman of 60, "Sit down, Dad." He sat down. It was the smallest thing in the world, a man sitting on a bench. And Claire Bennett had to turn and face the window for a second, and Lily saw her do it and pretended not to. "Okay," Claire said when she turned back. "Hands up." He put his hands up. "Now find C." Nathan looked at the keys. They were just keys. It was a box with hammers in it. His daughter had told him so. He looked for the gate. He found it. He put his thumb down on the note standing to the left of it, and the sound came out into that room, and it was one note, the plainest, dumbest, most ordinary sound a human being can make, and Nathan Walker's shoulders started to shake. Nobody said anything. "It's a note," Lily said quietly from behind him. "It's just a note, Dad." "I know. You can do a note." "I know, Bug." He played it again. 4 minutes went by. Then 6, then 11. At 22 minutes, he swore at his own left hand, and Lily gasped with total delight and said, "Dad," and Claire said language, and Nathan said, "It's not doing what I'm telling it," and Claire said, "Welcome to the piano," and Lily laughed so hard she went sideways off her chair. At 31 minutes, he stopped. He sat there with his hands on his knees. 31 minutes, Claire said. "Yeah." "You said 4. "Yeah." 31, she said again, and her voice did something. Nathan didn't look at her. He couldn't. "Same as the door," he said. Claire's hand went out and found the top of the piano. "What?" 31 days, Nathan said. "I knocked on your door 31 days. I told you I counted." He was still looking at the keys. "So I figure that's paid." And Claire Bennett walked out of her own studio and stood in the little kitchen and back with both hands flat on the counter for about 90 seconds, and neither Walker followed her. And when she came back, her face was washed and she said, "Same time Tuesday." And Nathan said, "Yeah," and that was the whole thing. March 2nd, 11:20 at night. The phone rang. Nathan came up out of sleep like a man coming off a ladder grabbing at air. "Yeah, Nathan." He was already standing. He was already reaching for his pants. "Claire, she's gone." "When?" 40 minutes ago. They called. They said it was fast. They said she didn't." Her voice was completely flat, and that was how he knew. "I'm in the car. I'm on the highway. I'm 10 miles past Bowling Green." "Claire, pull over." "I'm fine." "Pull the car over." "I'm fine. I'm driving perfectly. I'm doing 68. "Claire." Silence. A blinker. The engine changing its mind. "Okay," she said. "I'm over." Nathan sat down on the edge of his bed with his hand over his eyes. "Talk to me." "There's nothing to say." "Claire." "There's nothing to say, Nathan, that's the thing. I've been driving 90 minutes waiting to feel it, and there's nothing there. I feel like I'm going to a meeting." One crack, and then it sealed right back up. "What kind of person is that? A tired one." "Don't be nice to me." "I'm not being nice. I'm being accurate," Nathan said. "You've been mourning that woman since 2022. You did it in shifts, every third Sunday for 4 years. You paid it off in installments." Claire made a sound. "She was so small," she said. "I know. Nathan, she was so small, and every single time I walked in that room, she looked at me like I was the sun coming up. And I hated her. I sat in that room for 4 years holding the hand of a woman I hated, and she thought I was there because I loved her." "You were there because you loved her." "Both," Claire said. "It was both. That's what nobody tells you. It's both all the way to the end. It never resolves, it just stops." "Claire." "What?" "Where are you exactly?" "I don't know. There's a sign, it's the Elizabethtown exit." Nathan closed his eyes. Of course it was. "Stay there," he said. "What?" "Stay right there. Don't move." "Nathan, it's midnight. You've got a shift." "Claire," Nathan said, "I have been on my way to that gas station since 1999. Sit in your car." He got Lily out of bed. She didn't ask one question. She got in the truck with her comforter and her shoes untied, and she was out before Nashville was gone. 2:40 in the morning. Claire was sitting on the hood of her car in a coat over pajamas, and when his headlights came across her, she put her hand up against them, and then she saw whose truck it was, and she slid down off the hood. Nathan got out. She didn't move. "You drove 3 hours," she said. 2.5. You drive like a school teacher." "Nathan." "Which one?" he said. Claire stopped. What? Which phone? Where was it? I want to know where you were standing. Her face did something he had never seen it do. It's not there, she said. They took the phones out 20 years ago. There's nothing. Where was it? And Claire Bennett turned around and pointed at a blank stretch of wall next to an ice machine. There, she said. Nathan walked over and stood in front of that wall. He stood there a long time. 11 rings, he said. 11 rings. I was in the house, his voice went. Claire, I was asleep in that house. I was 40 feet from that machine. If I'd woken up, don't. If I'd woken up, don't you do that, Claire said, and it came at last, 90 minutes of nothing, and then all of it at once. Don't you take it. I've had that one 27 years. That one's mine. That's my rock, I carried it, and you don't get to then set it down. I can't. Claire, your mother is dead, Nathan said, and she carried the same rock for 27 years, and she carried it right into the ground. She carried it into a bed in Franklin, Indiana. I watched her do it. So I'm asking you, is that the plan you going to hand it to Lily? Claire's hand went to her mouth. Because that's how it works, Nathan said. Your mother put a phone number in a wallet in 1999, and it was still there in 2026, and it took a 9-year-old opening a closet door to get it out. Nathan, set it down. I don't know how, and Nathan Walker said, neither do I. Claire stopped. That's my whole answer, he said. I don't know how either. 5 months at 4 a.m, and I've got nothing. There's no trick. Nobody says a thing that fixes it. He was shaking. But I drove 2.5 hours in the middle of the night to stand next to a wall with you. That's what I've got, Claire. I can't fix it. I can stand next to it. Claire Bennett walked across a gas station parking lot in Elizabethtown, Kentucky at 2:50 in the morning and put her forehead against Nathan Walker's chest. He put his arms around her. 27 years. He put his arms around her, and she made no sound at all. And in the truck, a 9-year-old girl who was absolutely not asleep watched through the window with her chin on the seat back and said nothing, which was, everyone later agreed, the single greatest act of restraint in the history of the Walker family. 11 people came to the funeral. Nathan carried the casket with 3 strangers and a nephew. Afterward, a woman of about 70 took Claire's hand and said, "You're Dorothy's girl." "Yes, ma'am." "She talked about you every day," the woman said. "Every day. She'd tell anybody who'd sit still. My daughter's a piano player down in Nashville." Claire looked at Nathan over that woman's shoulder. Nathan mouthed one word. "Both." And Claire laughed and cried at the exact same time in a funeral home in Franklin, Indiana, which is a thing people only do when the truth has finally been told out loud. April 14th. 27 years to the day since a girl in a green jacket said she'd see him after 5th period. Neither of them mentioned it. Nathan knew she knew. Claire knew he knew. It sat at that kitchen table all through dinner like a 4th chair, and Lily ate 2 helpings and talked about a boy named Devin who was apparently an idiot. At 8:40, Lily went to bed. At 8:52, she came back out. "I forgot something. Lil, it's important. It's always important." "Dad?" She stood in the doorway in her moon pajamas with her arms crossed. "Are you two ever going to do anything?" Nathan choked on his coffee. "Lily, because it's been 7 months." 7. I counted. You count, I count. It's a family thing, apparently. And you take piano from her, which is insane. And she comes over on Thursdays, and you two sit here and talk about fire trucks and Chopin, and nobody does anything. Mia's mom asked me if you were dating, and I had to say, I don't know. I'm 9. That was embarrassing for me. Go to bed. Dad. Lillian, bed. She went. And at the mouth of the hallway, she stopped because she always stopped at the door, because that was who she was. "Miss Claire." "Yes, sweetheart." "Mom would have liked you," Lily said. "That's all. I'm not saying it to be nice. I've thought about it a lot. She would have liked you, and she would have thought Dad was being a coward. That's what I forgot." And she was gone. The kitchen was very quiet. Claire had both hands wrapped around her cup. "Nathan, don't. I have to say something." "Claire." "I've been standing in a doorway since September," Claire said. "You told me you weren't asking, and I honored that. I have honored that for 7 months, and it has cost me everything I've got, and I'm out. I'm empty. There's nothing left in the tank." Nathan put his cup down. "So I'm going to say it," Claire said, "and then you can do whatever you want with it, and if you tell me to go, I'll go, and this time I'll actually go because a woman can only be told twice." "Claire, I never forgot you. The refrigerator hummed. 27 years, Claire said. That's the sentence. That's all of it. I didn't move on. I didn't make peace with it. I didn't grow. Everybody says you grow. Her voice was steady, and her face was not. I got a whole life, Nathan. I got a good one. I had a man who'd have given me the world. I've been in rooms full of people laughing. And I have never once, not for one day, not for 1 hour, forgotten you. I woke up in Chicago on a Tuesday in 2011 and made coffee and thought about you before I thought about anything else, and that was a completely ordinary day. That's what I did with my life. That's the whole report. Nathan couldn't breathe. I spent 20 years, he said, pretending I did. Claire's face went, What? I pretended, Nathan said. That's what I did with mine, and I got good at it. I could go whole months. If you'd asked me in 2018, I'd have said, Claire who? That was a kid thing that was a long time ago, and I'd have meant it. I'd have passed a lie detector. Nathan. And then I'd hear a piano through a wall, he said. Claire made a sound. That's the difference between us, Nathan said. That's the only one there's ever been. You knew. You knew the whole time, and you looked straight at it every day, and it about killed you, and I didn't know, and it about killed me anyway, and I didn't even get to find out what was doing it. Which one's worse? Yours, Nathan said. Yours is worse. Claire, yours is so much worse. Don't you let anybody ever tell you. And Claire Bennett said, Then stop punishing me. Nathan stopped. That's all I'm asking, she said. I'm not asking you to forgive me. You told me in a diner you weren't going to, and I've never once asked you to change that. I don't want you to change it. Honestly, I don't think I could stand it if you did. Forgiveness would be a lie. There's nothing to forgive because there's no repair. You said it yourself. It isn't fixable. Then what? Then, stop punishing me, Claire said. That's a different thing. That's a completely different thing, and you know it is. You cannot forgive me and still let me in the house. People do it every day. That's what a family is. That's what it's actually made out of. It isn't forgiveness. It's just people deciding over and over every single morning to keep a door open on something that will never be okay. Nathan Walker sat in his kitchen. Claire. What? I'm not punishing you. Nathan. I'm not. His voice went out from under him. Look at my face. Does that look like a man punishing somebody? I'm terrified. Of what? Of you, Nathan said. Claire's hands came off the cup. I'm not 18, Nathan said. That's the thing nobody warns you about. At 18, you can lose everything and get up. At 18, you lose the girl and you drive around wrecked for 2 years. And then you're 20 and there's a whole life sitting there waiting on you. He was shaking all over now. I'm 38. I've got a kid who's already lost one. I've got one more of these in me, Claire. One. That's the entire inventory. And it's you. It's been you since I was 17 years old, and I've known that since the second that blue door opened, and if I let you in and you go, Nathan. If you go, he said, I don't get up. Claire Bennett put her hand out across the kitchen table. She didn't take his. She just put her hand out, palm up on the wood, and left it there. Then I don't go, she said. You can't promise that. I'm not promising it, Claire said. Nobody can promise it. Your wife couldn't promise it, and she meant it more than anybody ever meant anything. Then what are you doing? I'm sitting here, Claire said. That's it. That's what I've got. I'm sitting in your kitchen with my hand out, and I'm going to be sitting here tomorrow and Thursday and next Thursday, and I'm going to be on Oak Street in 10 years. You can spend the rest of your life waiting for me to disappear, and I'll spend the rest of mine not doing it, and one of us is going to be wrong. Nathan looked at her hand on the table. He looked at it a long, long time. And then Nathan Walker did the bravest thing he ever did, and he had run into a duplex with the second floor already gone. He put his hand in hers. Claire's whole body jerked like she'd been hit. Okay, he said. Claire started to laugh. It came out broken and wet and enormous. Okay, she said. 27 years, and I get okay. You said it yourself, Nathan said, and he was laughing too and crying and crushing her hand. In the parking lot, Bowling Green, you said if you'd walked across that gravel, I'd have taken that box out of your hands and said okay, like it was a flat tire. Claire stopped laughing. You remembered that? Claire, Nathan said, I remember everything. That's my whole problem. That's the entire thing that's wrong with me. I've been keeping every last piece of it for 27 years and there was nobody to give it to." And Claire Bennett came around the table. And in the mouth of the hallway in moon pajamas, a 9-year-old girl who was supposed to be asleep put both hands over her mouth, backed up very slowly, got into her own bed, and lay there in the dark, grinning at the ceiling like a maniac. They didn't rush it. That's the part people never believe when Lily tells it, because people want the other story, the one where the music comes up. There was no music. There was a woman with a key to a blue door and a man with a shift on Saturday, and they were 41 and 38, and between them they had one dead wife, one dead child, one dead mother, 27 years, 41 letters, and a 9-year-old with opinions. It took 2 more years. Claire kept the studio. She kept the apartment over it a year and a half longer than she needed to, and when Nathan finally asked her why, she said, "Because I want to leave it. I've never left anything. I've only ever been taken out of places at night." And Nathan said, "Okay," again, because by then that had become the entire language between them. And Claire said, "You're going to say that at the altar and everybody's going to think you're an idiot." And Nathan said, "Let 'em." The box moved in first. That was Lily's idea. She carried it herself, 41 letters with a rubber band around them, and she put it on the shelf in the hall closet and said, "It goes here, not in a bedroom. Here, because it's the hall, and everybody walks through the hall." Nathan read the second one on their wedding night. Claire had to leave the room. He read the third one 8 months later, and the fourth the following spring, and he never did read them in order, and he never once read more than one in a year. And there were still 11 of them in that box on the day Lily Walker graduated high school. Michael Carter didn't come to the wedding. He sent nothing. No card, no note, no gift. Claire checked the mail every day for a week, and Nathan watched her do it, and never said a word about a man in a gray overcoat at the back of a community center. But in Kokomo, Indiana, on November 19th of that year and the next, and every year after, there were flowers on that bench before Claire got there. She never called him. He never called her. Twice over the years, she started a letter. She never mailed those either, and when Nathan found out about a decade later, he laughed until he had to sit down on the stairs, and Claire said, "It is not funny." And Nathan said, "Claire, it's the funniest thing that has ever happened." And then they were both crying on the stairs at 11 o'clock at night like a couple of idiots, and Lily hollered down from her room to keep it down. Some people had a calculus test. Emily's piano came out of storage in year 3. Nathan did it himself. He drove the truck to the unit and stood in front of a wrapped shape for 11 minutes, and then he loaded it and he brought it home and put it in the front room, and it never moved again. Claire didn't touch it for a month. Then one Sunday morning, Nathan came out of the bedroom, and there she was sitting at his dead wife's piano with her hands in her lap, not playing, just sitting. "Hey, hey, you okay?" Claire didn't look up. "I'm asking her," she said. Nathan stood in the doorway of his own front room. "What did she say?" And Claire Bennett laughed quiet and wet. "She said, 'It's a piano, Claire, play the thing.'" "Yeah," Nathan said. "That's her." Claire played. And down the hall, a 12-year-old girl woke to the sound of a piano coming through a wall on a Sunday morning, which is the most ordinary sound in the world, and lay there with her hands on top of her blanket, and did not move for a very long time because she had been waiting for that sound since she was 6 years old and had stopped believing it would ever come back. Lily Walker went to Belmont, music education which surprised absolutely nobody except Lily. At her senior recital at 21 years old, she walked onto a real stage in front of 400 people, sat down and said into a microphone, "This one's a song about a bird." And in the 4th row, a man of 50 put his hand flat on his chest, and in the seat beside him, a woman of 53 took his other hand in both of hers, and neither of them was breathing. Lily found the gate. And she played her mother's 4 notes for 400 strangers in a concert hall in Nashville, Tennessee, and afterward an old man she'd never met came up to her at the reception and said, "What was that in the middle?" And Lily Walker said, "That's my mom." And the old man said she was here, and Lily said she was here. Some things don't get fixed. Nathan Walker never forgave Claire Bennett. He told her so on their 10th anniversary at a kitchen table, and she said, "Good," and meant it, and they ate dinner. Because the thing about a wound that won't close is that you can spend your life waiting on it, or you can build the house around it and go live in the house. They built the house around it. There's a bench in Kokomo, Indiana that says Ada, 1999 she was here, and every November 19th for the rest of their lives a truck from Tennessee pulled into that lot. Sometimes with a 9-year-old in it, then a teenager, then a young woman. Then one November a young woman and a baby in a car seat. And every single year without fail there were flowers there first. Nobody ever said thank you. He'd have hated that. Claire Bennett spent 27 years writing letters to a man who never got one of them. Nathan Walker spent 27 years standing in a parking lot he never left. And a woman named Emily, who never met either of them, wrote 4 words on a page in a bed she was not getting out of and put them in a box in a closet where they waited 3 years in the dark. Let her in anyway. He did. And that is the whole story. Not that love came back because it never left. Not that the past was forgiven because it never was. Only this on a Tuesday afternoon in September, a 9-year-old girl brought home a flyer and would not take no for an answer. And for the rest of his life, Nathan Walker heard a piano in his own house and never once looked up. That's the sound. That's the thing every human being on this earth is after. Somebody in the next room making a noise, and you don't have to look up because you already know she's there.